Good morning, Westeros.
Welcome to our Morning Throaters podcast.
I'm Nelson.
I'm Jeff.
And I'm Kyle.
And we are your Morning Throners.
And welcome back to another episode of your favorite Song of Ice and Fire podcast. We are your Morning Throners, and we got Cersei 2 on deck. Gentlemen, how you doing?
Great.
Cersei
2. What do we think about it?
Kyle, what are your thoughts before I influence you?
It was better than the first one, right?
More new stuff.
Yeah. It was kind of a little bit of stuff going on here. We get some of the aftermath and the difference between her and Tywin. I don't know. I feel like this one might be better to kind of get into that when we get to some of it.
She's still crazy.
Yeah, the whole time it's like her second guessing everybody, and I guess it starts off with that really, where she's like, "Is this Septon even like who he says he is? Like, what does he know? What's he doing? What's his game? What's this?" Blah, blah. Like, she just is assuming everybody is scheming. It's a lot of projection,
for sure.
Right?
Super paranoid, and like I said in the last time, seems to be almost. And we talked about it a lot. Like everybody handles grief differently, but she seems to be strangely not giving a fuck about her dad being dead. Right.
Well,
I don't agree. I don't agree with that statement.
And you said that last time too, and I think there might have been a few times, but there's literally not a single time where she's like, "Oh,
again,
my father, my poor father." It's like, I look bad in black. I don't want to wear the same dress.
I do agree with that, but I think to the same point of like, how would Tywin treat death? Like, Tywin wasn't crying over Joff. Tywin was like, "All right, what do we have to do now? Like, how do I put the puzzle back together?" Like,
but Tywin's known piece of shit, right?
Well,
like,
that's a. I don't care if you think that or not, or if it's true, but it's just the fact of these characters is they didn't prioritize mourning or weeping over fallen. It's part of the deal, and they move on and they figure out what the next step is for their family. So it's just their personality as a Lannisters. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it's what it is.
Well, and you talked about this last time too, kind of like they have this next man up mentality, which is a good thing to have if you're trying to take the situation over. Like, hey, someone's out, we got to get this shit done. Someone's got to do it.
Yeah, I mean, they're in a different situation than just another family in a castle. Like, they have probably the most at stake. They have the most at stake when this.
I don't think
happens.
You can justify garbage behavior by being like that, though. I guess like it just like the.
But it's not garbage behavior. It's garbage. It's garbage thoughts. She's not doing anything to the public. Like, she can think.
That's true.
What did she do? What did she do out there to like?
I mean, she's like making all these crazy decisions, not thinking anything through, like trying to play this game that she's not really obviously prepared for. Like I said, this is kind of why I wanted to wait until we got into it, because this is a long chapter, right? Like, so we're gonna come to a bunch of this stuff.
I mean, it started with she's not mourning her dad. She's doing everything expected of her to mourn.
She's literally just putting on a show for everybody. That's so fake.
I'm not saying that it's not fake. I'm saying it is what it is.
It's what's expected.
Like, I don't give a shit if she has. I'm not judging her on her moral compass. Yeah, she's a shitty person. Like, that's blatant.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not.
Well, so again, just on the morning thing, and like Kyle said, we'll get to some of this as we go. I think there's even a point where kind of like Olenna calls her out for. She's having this political argument with Mace in the Sept, right? They're not even outside of the Sept yet. And at the end, Olenna's like, "Okay, come on, Mace, let's leave her grace to her." And then it's like a ... grief. So I take that as Olenna's even being like, "You're really grief-stricken right now, arguing about who's going to be master of coin right now."
Again, none of that is true.
And she's yelling at Lady Tanda and shit, or like, I mean, like,
to be honest, like, there doesn't have, like, everyone can mourn in their own way. Like, I'm not exactly writing the book on how you should mourn a loss of your loved ones. I'm not saying that's how I would do it, but
yeah, and we're retreading some old ground from the last episode, so we'll get to this as we go on some spots. I'm sure, like Kyle said.
The only thing I have on this chapter is that it's way too fucking long.
It's a long one. God. So the synopsis, we didn't really talk about it. We kind of talked about some of the themes, but the synopsis is really, we actually have Tywin's actual funeral now. Last chapter was the discovery of the body. This is the actual funeral. And then she has like a meeting with Qyburn and a meeting with Kevin back at the castle. That's kind of the whole synopsis.
The short of it.
Yep. There is one thing actually that from the last chapter, the Arya chapter, that I wanted to ask Kyle about that I don't think we talked about. And that's and this is the Arya chapter where she goes to Bravos and she goes into the House of Black and White. And when she's going through like all her aliases, the guy at the house seems to know that they're all bullshit. I don't know if we talked about that at all. He's like, "Who are you?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm Salty, Ari, Squab." And he's like, nope, closer. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't think we talked about it. So and we don't have to if you don't have any thoughts on it. But
I mean, I guess my thought on that would be, I don't know that I think that this guy knows exactly who she is more than just that she was pretending to be somebody that she wasn't.
and he could tell when she started telling the truth.
Yeah,
she goes through a lot of names.
I know, but I feel like it's pretty evident that some of them don't fit her and aren't her name, I guess, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe this guy does. I mean, he might know more than he's letting on. That would, I guess, kind of explain why he would have some sort of knowledge. It seemed like the captain of the boat, like I don't want to turn this into just that chapter discussion, but it seemed like the captain of the boat, right? Like he kind of knew something. They knew where to take her. They knew, like, I mean, this coin held more to it than that, right? So
yeah, there was something about it.
So yeah, I guess that's kind of where I'm coming from. Is like maybe just the fact that some strange girl had this coin was enough to kind of set off some alarm bells, and maybe this guy did look into who she was a little bit.
Okay,
because
gotcha.
I mean, who's to say they didn't send word off the boat or anything, right? Like I don't know.
Yeah, and I pulled that on you. I didn't warn you that we were going to talk about it. So
no, that's fair.
Cool.
But anyway, yeah, let's get into this one.
All right, so Tommen and Cersei are riding in, what do they call these things?
Litter.
The litter to the wake. Tommen wanted to ride his horse, but it's raining outside, and Cersei took too long to get ready, and she wasn't going to let that go to waste. So in the litter, they all go to the Great Sept of Baelor.
I think Jaime was kind of fucking with her, right? Like he's like, yeah, you can ride. Like he's like, yeah, you can ride your horse there.
She lets him ride it on the way back. I think if it wasn't raining, it wouldn't be a problem. It was just a promise made.
She let him ride on the way back because she had other stuff to do.
That's true. That's one of the things about Cersei is she seems kind of like she cares about her children, but there are a few lines that seem like she only cares about her children because of like what it gives her.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely true. I mean even in the first during this ride, she's continuously badgering Tommen about like his not wearing his crown or not being straight up and down and then she is valuing the type of king or prince or whatever that Joffrey was. Like this is how you should be, which is the
tough.
craziest. That's one of the craziest things about this. Is like, oh, that's what you like. That's the value.
I was wondering where your line was, Jeff. I felt like you with the morning stuff. You're like, yeah, people could do whatever they need to do. They do what you want, but
again, I'm just trying to give you where she's coming from of how she was raised and the dude that she is mourning. Like she's trying to do what he would have done. Like he would have been present at all of these things, but he wasn't going to be shedding tears and whatnot, and he would have gotten back to business as quickly as he needed to.
And I think that makes him a bad father,
and I
guess
think,
is what I'm trying to say.
That's a good point, because Cersei, and again, in the last chapter, I bring it up a lot, but Cersei, there's a point where Cersei thinks like, oh, what did Tywin do when his own dad died? And she's like, if he cried, no one knows about it because there's no stories of Tywin ever crying. So
yeah, maybe Tywin did cry in his own soul or at his own time, but like he's presenting himself, which again, I don't know, to each his own. Like I don't think you have to cry to be sad, and I don't think you need to look sad to be sad. I do believe that as a person,
100%. And I almost wonder if we almost have like, I'll raise the hand. I won't throw you guys in with me, but it almost, am I being sexist in expecting Cersei to mourn more? Like, would I expect Jaime to mourn this much? Like, it'll be interesting. I think we haven't had a Jaime chapter since we've had a Cersei one. So, I don't know if you saw, Kyle, but the next chapter is a Jaime chapter.
It's next.
So I think that'll be interesting to just we can kind of have this conversation again for a third time once we've seen Jaime and kind of compare those two.
Yeah. I mean, Jaime is said to be standing like a statue.
Yeah, not moving at all.
So again, I'm not going to judge him and say he's a bad son.
True.
I mean, but Jaime also knows what happened, right? Like, I mean, Jaime's got some secrets and shit going on. So I don't think it's kind of the same situation.
But that shouldn't make him any less sad that his dad died. And if anything, he should be more guilty.
I think, but he's like, fuck, I got to pretend that I didn't let Tyrion out of jail, right? Like,
well, I think that's not the same. I think those are two separate things.
Exactly. I don't think it's two separate things.
You got to pretend that you didn't let Tyrion out, but you can still. Why can't he be super sad? Why isn't he wailing at the top of his lungs at this wake?
Because he's probably trying not to fucking say anything.
If anything, there could be guilt, because it's like it almost sounds like Kyle's implying he knew Tywin would die. He definitely did not know Tywin was going to die as a result of letting Tyrion out. But there is the difference that he might be feeling from Cersei in that I'm partially responsible for this.
Well, for sure. And like if anybody finds out that he is the one that let him out, like if he says the wrong thing, like I was down there, something comes up that he like was there, like he's gonna be quiet, man.
Okay, that's fair. Because I was thinking that even though I agree with Jeff that even though he might be guilty, that doesn't really mean that he would be mourning any less than normal. But that's a good point that you made.
If he was mourning, it wouldn't be a red flag like, oh shit, he did something. He had something to do with it. Like that's.
But you might want to hold your cards closer to your chest to make sure you don't slip up, at least in public, right, Jeff? That you're mourning. But again, I think it'll be interesting when we see inside his head.
You don't think people are giving the condolences to him too when they do get a chance to?
You're
talk
right,
to him?
probably. Yeah.
Like, he's not hiding from people. He's the Kingsguard. He's the captain of the Kingsguard. It's not.
I think he's laying low.
That's fair. And again, I'm trying to tread lightly because I know I've read the JB chapter, so we can talk about it again next time.
I don't remember one word.
I know you
it,
don't,
so.
but we can talk about it again next time.
All right. So Tommen sees as they're riding through that there's not nearly as many people out in the streets for this wake as it was for King Robert.
Yep. And she mentions, right, like this is probably because nobody here ever liked Tywin.
Gave a fuck. You know,
he literally sacked the city. Like when Aerys was in charge, he was the one that brought the army in and pillaged and raped and you know what I mean?
And he never tried to win the affection of the people either. She said that too, right? Like she
exactly.
He didn't care if he was well liked.
He kind of did though with the bended knee forgiveness stuff. Like he didn't try and win them over, but like he allowed them back in. I guess
that's
what I'm
lords,
saying too.
And there are lords here.
True.
That's not the peasants,
True.
which is what they're
True.
common
True.
that we're talking about here. But yeah, so nobody came out to see it. It's also kind of raining, so we don't know if that had an effect. But along the
I think
interesting,
she's justifying.
I'm not standing in a parade in the rain. Unless
for
it's probably like
for some guy that I don't even like.
Parade. Yeah. There's multiple services for this wake. This one's just for her and the High Lords. There's going to be another one for the commoners, and then there's like prayer rooms, right, available for those who need help with the loss of Tywin.
Yeah, I think there's 3. There's the highborn one, then there's one for the lowborn, then there's another one at evening that she's like, I'll have to come back for that one. You have to be seen doing the deal, which again, I think is kind of a hint to she doesn't really care. She doesn't want to come and see her father off again. She's just doing what she thinks is expected of her. But along the lines of what I was saying, here one of the lines
that is true. I'm not denying that.
I know. I feel like you're almost saying there's 2 things. There's mourning and there's picking up the pieces of where we left off, and she is putting mourning completely on the back burner to take care of the other shit. Not that it's not there, just that's a secondary thing right now. We have shit to do first.
Right here, there's a Tywin quote about love. You can't eat love. You can't do anything with love. Blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. So I don't know that there's real love in this family. So I don't know that she really is mourning. I guess is kind of
agreed, and that's what I was saying. Like they weren't raised to be sad when they died. Like, all right, like I said, it was a next man up deal. Like
you said it was a Lannister thing. Yeah. The other quote that again, kind of to the point I was saying earlier, Cersei doesn't really seem to care about her. She seems to care about her children, but in a means that helps her. When she notes that Tommen, again, like you were saying, she tells Tommen what to do and he does it. And then she's like, why does he listen to me? He should argue more. And she's like, he also used to be plump. Now he's looking too skinny. I hope he's not growing ill, especially with Marcella in the hands of the Dornishmen. Like, your one child being sick shouldn't matter more because your other child's gone, unless the only thing you care about is, like, using your children to hold on to power, right? If one's gone, the other one's gone, too. So, like...
Or she had, like, a clear favorite in this whole deal.
That's true, too. But it seems to be Joffrey, from what you were saying.
That favorite's not there anymore.
Well, yeah,
so it's like, oh, fuck. Like, I had all the eggs in the Joffrey. Like, he was the firstborn son. But maybe she discloses more on that. So... They get there, and the new Septon is there to meet them out of the litter. He's a little guy, but he's got a nice big hat.
Big crown, yep.
And we are reminded that he was appointed by Tyrion.
Yep, exactly. And again, it's kind of interesting. We don't know. It's not like we were in Tyrion's head 24/7. But she kind of throughout this chapter thinks like, oh, this High Septon is a Tyrion guy. He might know things about me because Tyrion appointed him. We never saw Tyrion think twice about this guy. I think he maybe said, like, he had appointed some new guy, and then that was it.
And this one wasn't even like, hey, I hate the old guy like Pycelle was, right? This was like the old guy died. We just need somebody to fill the role.
Yeah, he died in the riot, and the old crown was like lost and everything. Yeah,
this didn't seem like it was much of a buddy, like a payback pick or whatever. Like he didn't like put this guy. It was just like, we need a Septon.
I do love that it's a mind worm in her head though. Like she's so worried.
That's just who she is in general, right? Like,
for sure.
Yeah, shadows behind every corner, or whatever that saying is. Yeah.
So her father's friends did come out to the east. I don't have names now. If there is a list,
she doesn't really have a list here. She mentioned some of them later when people are giving condolences. Okay.
And then she goes up, paid their respects. Tommen's with her. He's emotional. I think this again points to it. Like like, hey, you're the king.
Yeah,
don't cry. Like, hey, knock that shit off. Again, just kind of their mentality. I don't know.
Here we are judging, at least me judging Cersei for not crying, and Tommen is here crying, and Cersei's judging him for showing emotion, right? Like kind of doing the opposite. Like not now. It's next man up mentality. This is not how we Lannisters do things.
Yeah.
Especially not in public. So again, I think you can kind of.
Did you guys watch Sopranos? Did you?
I tried. I couldn't get into it.
Well, there's a point. I won't go too much. I think it is worth getting into it.
Sure.
But there's a point where one of like the higher up men in the family like breaks down crying in full public, and the dudes of the mafia just like completely like lose all respect for him. Which again, I'm not saying is right, but I'm just saying that's the mentality of I'm saying the Lannisters and the mafia.
I mean, you're allowed to say that that's kind of shitty, right? Like that these people are forcing themselves to suppress their own emotion. Like you're allowed to have that opinion, I guess what I'm trying to say. Like you don't have to.
Yeah. No, I do have that opinion. I'm just saying that's a very.
Am I wrong? That's a relatively modern thing, though.
Yeah, I think in the last 2 decades, it's
like
very much broken the toxic male box that you can have emotions and it's okay to show them. And I'm a big proponent of that because it's
much healthier.
Yeah, and it's what anything that you're emotional about is what you care about, and it's okay to do that.
Care about things. Yeah.
Yes, it's okay. It's okay to care. I actually like when you care.
Nelson, you can cut out my yelling at you for being a toxic man.
I'll even say it here. I don't know. Like I kind of don't even still know how I feel about that. Like Jeff see me cry in public a lot, so obviously I personally don't have any qualms about it. But like when if I look up to a guy, like I don't think I have many male role models that I've seen cry in public. So is that because seeing somebody cry in public would make me not respect that person? Maybe not. Maybe just that a lot of my male role models are a generation above me when that just wasn't a thing you did no matter what anyway, right? So there's not many examples. But again, I don't know. You know what I mean? I'll take the stance kind of middle ground on this one. I am kind of under the impression that I respect men who don't cry in public more, which is maybe a toxic masculine trait, which Kyle's called me out on before, and I'll raise my hand for that.
It's just putting value into being able to suppress your feelings, which there's no need to. Like it's okay.
I preface the whole thing. Jeff seen me cry in public many times, so I don't think that I live to this standard, but it is something that I think about, and I'm like, I don't know. I feel like I shouldn't think like that, but I do. So I don't know. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, you shouldn't. I'm throwing that out there.
Moving on.
Yeah. All right. So she starts describing the body, right? So he's dressed to the nines. He's dressed for battle. He's wearing, I think, the same fit that he wore at the battle that Tyrion fought in.
Yeah.
At least with the lioness shoulder pads, right, is what stood out to me.
And the helmet, yeah.
The fancy lion helm. Yep. He doesn't actually have the helmet on. It's next to him because she notes something about his body, right?
He's smiling.
He has this weird smile, yeah. Although the mouth, the corners of his father's lips curved upward ever so slightly, giving him a look of vase bemusement. That should not be. She blamed Pycelle. He should have told the Silent Sisters that Lord Tywin Lannister never smiled. The man is as useless as nipples on a breastplate. The half-smile made Lord Tywin seem less fearful somehow. That and the fact that his eyes were closed. Her father's eyes had always been unsettling. Pale green, almost luminous, flecked with gold. His eyes could see inside you. Could see how weak and worthless and ugly you were deep down. When he looked at you, you knew. And I don't know if it's right here, that's where I have the quote ending, but there's a few times in this chapter where Cersei's like, now it's my eyes they'll fear. Or like, she'll talk about Tywin and then think like you're saying,
it just passed on to her.
Yeah. She says, I am a lion too, is what she says at the end of this. Yeah. Cersei thought it is my look they will flinch from now. Yeah.
And we can get into it a little bit later when it's Kevin, because I think when she's talking to Kevin, because I think that's when it's more obvious. But like, how is she in charge? Like, how is anyone asking her for permission to like why does Mace come up to her?
She's the Queen Regent. What do you mean?
She was Queen Regent. It's her dad was the hand. Like, I mean, she's kind of the most important person here. She's the mom of the king.
Okay, I guess that makes sense. But like, to me, Kevin is the heir. Jamie is in the King's Guard. Cersei's a woman.
He's the heir of Castle Rock. He's not the heir of the hand.
I know that. But he doesn't treat that's why I said we can talk about it more with the Kevin thing. He doesn't even seem to be that. He's like, make me your Castellan, is what he tells Cersei. He's treating her like she's the heir, even though he says your father always thought Jamie was the heir. So like, again, we can get into that later. But
wouldn't truly like Marcella be the heir? Because like Sansa would have been the heir.
I think Tommen would technically have both.
Well, Tommen's the king. Well, okay, he's both then. Like I don't think like
I know
you can't go back to Kevin and skip over her kids.
When there's no males, you can.
Well, Tommen's there, so. Well,
but if we're not counting Tommen because he has Casterly Roth, then we're skipping over him.
No,
for that reason.
But Winterfell wouldn't go to the Karstarks. they would give it to Sansa, and she would marry, and it would be her family. That you're
Not
wrong.
if Benjen wasn't in the Night
Yeah,
Watch.
I was gonna say, what if Ned's brother was out? The Karstarks isn't quite the same.
Okay, so I don't think it would go to Benjen, is my thought. I think it would go to Sansa and her husband. They would marry her, and...
Well, we have an example in this chapter. Lancel's marrying a dairy.
Okay.
She's actually a Frey, but she's a dairy on her mother's side. There's no dairies left, so she has the best claim. But if there was a dairy left, like when the dairy lord died, if he had a brother, he would be above this dairy daughter.
That's not an example, because...
It is an example.
There's no uncle there to say that that they passed over him.
But if there would have been an uncle...
you don't know that.
I guess
You're just
okay,
assuming
fair.
All right, so...
And you've been right too many times recently for me to push you anymore.
Nipples on a breastplate. Is that a Batman joke?
I think
right?
it is a Batman
It should
joke.
be a Batman joke. That's the only thing I thought about. Which I actually thought those suits were dope back when those movies came out. Like, I didn't mind that there was nipples on them, but it is worthless.
Is it the Michael Keaton Batman that has nipples on his...
I think Michael Keaton definitely had nipples, and George Clooney had nipples.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, maybe it was just George. I don't know. Yeah,
George definitely did. I remember that. So then there's another thing that's going on. Wait, did we talk about his eyes being closed? We did.
She mentions the eyes, but then she thinks about this story. We didn't talk about the story.
Yeah. Okay.
You want to hit that quick? You don't have to read the quote. You can just mention what it is.
I don't recall word for word what the story was about.
Basically, the one guy they're talking.
Oh yeah. So someone made fun of him at a dinner party, right?
Yeah, it was around the time Cersei had first come to court, so she said she was a girl in green as summer grass. Kind of give me Sansa. I'm thinking she's kind of like Sansa, like really hasn't seen how things work yet. And people are kind of taking jabs at her dad, saying like, "Oh, if we need gold, we don't need to tax wine. We should just put Tywin on the shitter because he shits gold."
Yeah. And
everybody laughed at it, but Tywin just stared daggers at this guy.
Death stare, and he got the message, and tucked tail between leg and bounced.
Yep.
So Cersei, again, I'm full on board. Like Cersei just believing that she inherits, or now if she does inherit this ability to just like scare people with her glare is just
now
foolish.
It's me they fear immediately. Yeah, like she doesn't realize that's going to take some time. We did kind of skip over. She did see Jaime here standing here not doing anything, right? Not doing anything, but like just like stand guard.
And she says like he wouldn't even meet her eyes or something, right? She does look at him and he wouldn't look back.
Yeah, so they're still in a poor spot, you could assume. And or maybe he just doesn't. Maybe it's because they don't know how to handle this current situation they're in. Maybe he's trying to hide his eyes and his emotions.
Well, didn't they have an argument last time they met? She came to him in White Sword Tower, and she's like, "Do all this stuff for me. Like you have to kill Tyrion for me. Like he did it." And he basically's like, "No, like I'm doing my own thing now."
Yeah, like I live here. It's my job. Get out of here.
And then one last notice about him is that he's smelling pretty ripe.
Yeah, I think right before that it's actually funny. I think there's a lot of symbolism in the chapter, right? So the one thing is like it's raining out, and she says that normally this dome they're in is sick. It has like all these like
rainbows and
crystals that make rainbows when the light comes through. And she's like the whole hall and the court should be like showered in rainbows. My father deserved rainbows. He was a great man. I shall be greater though. 1,000 years from now, when the Maesters write about this time, you shall be remembered only as Queen Cersei's sire. She's at her father's funeral again to the mourning.
That's
thing.
fucked up. That's fucked up.
Looking at her dad and be like, the only like you're a great man, but you're only going to be remembered as my dad. Exactly. That's crazy to think about.
And I don't think Tywin felt that way about his dad's death. I don't
know. I mean, that's
it seemed
true,
like he did, right?
That is
what
true.
Do you mean
though.
It's true.
We only remember Tytos as Tywin's father.
Well, I mean,
and
you
the guy who
go far enough.
Gave out loans and didn't collect debts. That's how I remember him.
I guess the part is like, if the legacy is leave the family better than when you got it, right? Then Tywin would do that, right? And if Cersei left the family better than she got it, she would do that as well, right? Because the triumphs would be greater and greater. But I don't know if Tywin did that. I mean, he was
that's questionable.
Maybe more relevant in the realm, but yeah.
And will Cersei leave it better off? I don't know. I think you could say Tywin probably did leave it better off, just objectively. Like his father was kind of like a weak lord. He would give out loans and not take money. Like they were just becoming overrun by all their lesser banner lords, the Reynes and Tarbeck.
I mean, you don't know what life was like back then.
True, but that's why Tywin had to kind of be like, "Yo, we're still."
Maybe Tywin just made things shitty for everybody.
That's true. Again, we don't know. That's fair.
Shitty for everybody else, but not his family.
Exactly, which is kind of shitty, right? Like to shit on your people just to make yourself better.
Yeah, for a lord, for sure.
Maybe the people of Lannisport are happy. I don't All right.
Yeah. I guess that was what I was trying to say. Is I don't know enough about them to have this discussion or Titus or anything.
We always talk about it from the point of view of the highborn because that's whose heads we're in, and Kyle's always there to bring up the lowborn's perspective, the freaking peasants nobody cares about, whatever.
The hot pies.
And Squab.
I care about hot pie.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead, Jeff.
Lancel's there with Sir Kevin, and Lancel looking bad, looking brutal.
Lancel's looking bad. He's 17, but he looks 70. Also, Jeff, you did mention this, but I kind of skipped over it. There's a stake. And she mentioned, she's like, that's not that bad. But this gets mentioned by like a lot of people, and she thinks about it later.
People are looking around, too, and they're like making stank faces. Like,
well, he got shot in the poop chute, pretty much, right? Like, it's just his guts
leaking
fucking
poop.
As a amateur hunter, when you shoot a deer in the belly, it smells way worse than... It doesn't even stink at all if you shoot it anywhere but the belly. If you shoot in the belly, it stinks. So, yeah. But you'd think that they would have a
a cleaning, like take the stomach out type of deal.
Yeah, like this isn't a problem in modern days, right? They put some perfume or they put something in there, right? That's what isn't the Silent Sisters aren't doing their job. She blames Pycelle, which is again kind
I don't
of hilarious.
think it's perfume, but
she just blames Pycelle.
I don't know what they would do with that.
You embalm the body, right? Like
take all his guts out, the miles of intestine.
You do like what you do if you're having guests at like an open house. You just bake a bunch of chocolate chip cookies and just put them inside the cavity, and that's how you would present the body. At least, and you change the cookies out like every couple hours. That's how I would do it.
Right. So as she continues to look around, she sees Marge, Queen Marge, former Queen Marge, and future Queen Marge. And then she has her posse of girls behind her, and she starts kind of trying to eye them up as who's going to be the weak link of that group that she can use in the future.
Exactly. Who's fearful or wanton or has a loose tongue, I'll need to find out. So she's always scheming. She always says that her and Loris look very similar and wonders what else they might have in common, which I don't know. I kind of take this as almost a projecting thing. I think Kyle said it earlier. She projects it sometimes throughout this chapter.
Well, 100%. She's like, I'm always scheming, so everybody has to be always scheming because that's the way everything is. How everybody scheme. It's all plot. It's all plot. I almost
look at it as like, are they fucking?
Oh, that's what you meant?
Because that's what her and Jamie are doing. Like, oh, they look so similar. I wonder what else they have in common. It's kind of what
Marjorie. That's what I took too.
I missed what you were saying. I'm sorry, but I was the projection.
Marjorie and Loris were banging. That's what I think that she. Is that's what I think she.
You're right. I will say that I missed that in my read through, and I also missed you kind of saying it there. What I was just getting at was, in general, she's constantly like, oh, they have to be scheming. Everybody's scheming. Everybody's got shit going on. Like
Kevin and Mace and everybody.
Can't people just be fucking living? I don't know that Mace seems like he really has that big of plans yet, but he probably does.
Yeah, I don't think Mace is the ringleader, but I think he just some plans too. Yeah.
Not the ringleader, but he's got ambitions. How's that?
Yeah. So they get out into the lantern room. Is that
Hall of Lamps?
Of Lamps, lamp room.
Out, not in the funeral room anymore.
Not in the main. Yeah. And a lot of people come up, give their condolences.
Yep.
Fire away, Nels.
At first, we got Horace and Hobber Redwine, who, it's kind of funny, these guys were captives for like the first two books, but then now that the Tyrells are on our side, they're buddy, and their dad's there too. Paxter Redwine, he's the Lord. They'll kiss her fingers and cheeks and stuff. A pyromancer promises that there'll be a flaming hand burning in the sky when they take the body west. Giles Rosby, he coughs a lot. This is when I realized, I cut it out of the last of one of the previous episodes, but I'll give Jeff credit. There was a time when Brienne, it was the Brienne episode, when Brienne was in Rosby, I was like, and I feel really stupid in hindsight, but I was like, okay, what house is from Rosby? And Jeff's like, House Rosby? And I'm like, no, dummy, it's Stokeworth. House Stokeworth is from Stokeworth. So
just me being smart again.
But I think Giles Rosby is one of the only Rosbys we hear of. But then I got to the search chapter. I'm like, Giles Rosby. He's definitely from Rosby. So I was like, oh crap.
The Rosbys are from Stokeworth, and the Stokeworths are from Rosby.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
It's an old switcheroo.
But I'd already edited the episode, so instead of doing like I had it all ready to go, so instead of just doing like an editor Nelson here, I just cut out the section where we talked about it. So I wasn't giving people. And I again, to be clear, I don't do that.
Due credit.
I don't do that to not make myself sound stupid. I do that because I don't want to give anybody misinformation. Because I feel like people will trust me on that and not look it up, and then be in a conversation with their friends and get it wrong. So that's why I'm bringing it up here. I was wrong twice.
This podcast I listened to said, yeah.
Can you believe that guy?
I do that. I quote podcasts without checking. So
us.
I quote myself. Yeah.
All right. So the first person I have that comes up and has like a maybe more of a conversation is Tanda. Is there anybody else?
The only person in between, some random guy who had an eye patch on. He's like, I'm not gonna take this off till I bring you Tyrion.
Yeah, like, why is that? What does that matter?
I don't know.
Take it off. If you need your other eye, like, take your eye patch off. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like a vow of silence or whatever. Like it's a self self-sacrifice.
do something that matters. Give me the vow of silence. Take your goddamn eye patch off. That doesn't prevent.
But like Cersei doesn't even respect it. She's like, as soon as that fool was gone, Lady Felice came up. So you said Tanda. So Tanda's the mom. Felice and Lolly's are daughters.
Sorry.
Tanda stayed behind because Lolly's is giving birth to her baby.
Yeah. But
so Felice is
the message coming down is that they want to name this child Tywin in honor of him.
Yeah.
Which, man, Cersei does not take kind to that.
I had to do a double take. I'm like, wait, she said that out loud? That, like, because she thinks reckless shit like this all the time. But this is when she stared at her aghast. Your Lackwit's sister gets herself raped by half of King's Landing, and Tanda thinks to honor the bastard with my lord's father's name? I think not. And again, this is in public. Like, Kevin's hearing about the Mace conversation later. People are gossiping about what's going on.
I will say that in the time period that we're talking about, or just the conversations around bastards, I can see why Cersei would come to this because of the feeling behind it all. But
I kind of agree with Cersei, but yeah, you have to have some tact. You have to have some bedside manner.
What the fuck? She doesn't own the name Tywin. Get the fuck out of here.
I mean, but again,
I agree with Cersei.
Jeff said it in a better way. That, like, I can kind of see where she's coming from.
I do agree with Kyle.
I'll say it that way. I'll say it that way. I can kind of see where she's coming from. Whatever. Except for some reason, that's better than I kind of agree with Cersei. But whatever. You know what I'm saying? She does. Somebody else asked her about this later, and she's like, "Yeah, sure, whatever, fine." Because so clearly she doesn't mind people naming Tywin. It's the bastard thing.
It's very meaningless. It is the bastard thing, and probably.
You're just ignoring the first part of that sentence.
The Lackwit part of it.
Yeah, your dumb sister had the audacity.
Well, I actually was ignoring that. I totally forgot about that. Your
mentally handicapped sister had the audacity to get raped in that riot, and now what? Like,
I actually was forgetting that Lolly's had mental problems.
Get the fuck out of here, man! This is horrible
you're right. That's
shit.
part of it. That probably is part of it too, which is
yeah, for sure.
I don't agree with Cersei on that part. I'll say.
Well, the bastard thing. The only thing that I can say is that the people in this time period, I don't even know if time period is the right thing in the book. Like, obviously they feel certain ways about bastards.
Yeah,
in this setting.
In this setting, yeah.
This culture, yeah.
All right, so no, bam. All right, Lancel all broke up. He comes up with Kevin, right?
Yeah, with Kevin. But Cersei's like, we have a meeting later. Fuck off. It seems like is what she tells Kevin. And he's like, okay, whatever. But Lancel stays behind. Is kind of how that happens.
I'll see. We'll handle business later. Not here. Yeah. But then she handles some business here, which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, this conversation with Lancel is kind of long. So he's hurt. Again, how did he get hurt?
In the war.
He just walks. He comes into the throne room hurt, right?
He got hurt.
Yeah, he got stabbed under the arm, and then she like punches him in it.
Yeah,
whatever, right?
He's like, we need Joffrey back out there. Like, the men's like courage is failing because the king's inside. Like, send him back. And she's like, no, and punches him and like, fuck you. And then Sansa saves him. So again, I think I've said to Jeff in spoiler sections, like, this guy wouldn't be here without Sansa. And that seems like an exaggeration at the time because it's like, oh, he got stabbed and he got like pushed in his thing. But like,
he seems pretty close.
He's on the edge right here. He's 1 foot in.
And this is months later. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Cersei even says 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
I don't know again where my stance was. I can't imagine that Cersei's punch to the shoulder or whatever she did
made it that much worse.
Put him over the edge. I will agree that Sansa getting help probably saved him more so than.
But she was like digging in the wound or whatever, and like just was like, "No, you fucking deal with it yourself," kind of thing. She definitely.
I feel like it was more than just like a push. In the show, it is just a push. But I feel like Kyle's right. In the books, it's like a little bit more.
So he's all banged up, and he has to marry a Frey widow that was the Lady of Derry. We talked about that really quick.
She wasn't the Lady of Derry. So she has Derry blood. Her mom was a Derry. I don't think this is a spoiler because technically you could figure it out with what we know. The Frey whose POV we got in the epilogue, he talks about how he was married to a Derry. So this is one of his children. And we know that one of his children was married and then to Pate of Seven Strings. And then I think I got killed by the Mountain. So now she is a widow.
I forget that guy's name already.
Merritt.
Who is it?
So
Barrett?
Merritt, Merrett, I think.
Something like that, yeah. Merit for okay. Anyway,
Yeah. So one of his daughters, who was married to, I think it was just a hedge knight, but the hedge knight I think got killed by the mountain, so now she's a widow. So she is a widow, but she's not a widow to a dairy. She's a widow whose mom was a dairy.
Maybe I mistook that as she was the widow to.
I who even know who this character was, I took it as the same thing, and I was like, wait, was she married? Because I knew she was married to a hedge knight, so I was like, wait, was she married twice? When I looked it up, I was like, oh wait, no, her mom's a dairy. That's why she's saying this. But I thought she was married twice, and one of them was a dairy too.
Gotcha.
So yeah, he's going to marry her, and he's going to get dairy because like there is no lord of dairy. She's kind of just helping with the bloodline because which again I think kind of says to that the whole women aren't inheriting. The man's getting the lordship. She's just there to kind of solidify things because she's got some of the blood.
For sure.
Still.
Again, which is why I would say like it would go to Sansa and they would marry her type of thing. But
so yeah, Lance was like, yeah, I'm going to go there, but there's outlaws in the castle. Like, so Kyle, did we know of any of this already? Like that because she says Tywin had given him this lordship after the Blackwater.
I don't know, man. I feel like the last time Lancel was awake was like a book and a half ago.
That's true.
So I have no idea.
I don't think we've seen him up and about in a while, but I think we've heard about him a few times. And I probably could have checked my notes.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. It's like in passing.
I think we heard that he was like clinging on to life, but he was awake and whatnot. The last kind of note I have on his conversation is his like talk of becoming pious, or at least seeing the reason for being pious, right, and atoning for his sins.
Well, there's a part where he reaches for her hand and he says,
"Yeah, it was because he's like he almost like says that I love you, pretty much, right?"
He's like, you know that I always
love, and then she says House Lannister.
He cuts him off House Lannister.
It is cruel, Cersei. Your Grace knows that I love House Lannister. She finished for him. No one can doubt that, Lancel.
Exactly. So, but then what he follows up with is, when I was hurt, my father took me to the Septon, and he said that the mother spared me so that I can atone for my sins. And Cersei's like, oh crap, what did this guy say? There's too many people that have dirt on Cersei, pretty much. Tyrion knew too much. Lancel knows too much.
She's like, silent prayer, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, much can be learned from silent prayers. Like, what's this guy going to say to what did he say to High Septon? What could he say to his future wife?
Don't talk to anybody.
Yeah. And he's
it's not even that. Like, he's not even worried about this. She's not even worried about that. She's like, I can just say, like, yeah, he's making shit up if I say he banged, if we bang. But if he says that he was told and contracted to kill Robert for me, like, that will be a really big problem.
So this is kind of interesting, right? This is kind of confirmation. This is something we probably suspected, but we didn't know for sure. Because it does seem kind of ridiculous that, the plan is let's just get him drunk and hope something bad happens. But Cersei kind of says like, oh yeah, that was the plan. Robert and strong wine was the plan that Lancel knows about. So
I mean, it does make sense when you talk about like a killer boar type of thing. Like,
well, and if you know Robert and you know that he likes to drink and he'll get fucked up and he does date,
and he's gonna tell people to like, don't help me.
Yeah, no,
like,
don't help me. Yeah, I got this.
And I've never been boar hunting, but I think it is, especially with a spear, not a gun, it's probably pretty dangerous, right? So
absolutely,
probably a pretty fair bet. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So he
He
bangs off. All right. Marge and friends come up. I don't have much other than them giving the old, like, she hugs her like a sister, and the other people kiss her fingers and things like that.
Yep.
Well, yeah, and this is kind of the first time somebody really doesn't respect her as queen, almost, right? Like, she's like, I'm not just a sister. Like, you're supposed to kind of bow to me.
Yeah.
Even though this is the future queen. It's weird, right? Like, she expects so much respect out of these people.
Along those lines, I thought it was interesting earlier that when they met up, kind of jumping back to when they first get to the High Septon's there, both her and Tommen kneel to him and kiss his fingers.
That's a holy thing, though, I think. Like, this is entering the
church.
But
she doesn't think twice of that. You could see Cersei being like, who the fuck is this guy that I have to... She doesn't really think twice about it. All she thinks is like, my skirt got wet.
I think that's just part of the ceremony, though, to
like,
be honest.
It's like kneeling at the altar type of thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah. All right. The next person who comes up is an interesting one. Lady Merryweather.
Yeah, so we mentioned this before, but Lady Graceford's thick with... I say thick, whatever Cersei says, large with child. And thick with child is definitely not the right wording. She's like, can I name it Tywin? Or Lana? I'm thinking Lana as Lannister.
Lana if it was... Yeah, Lana for a girl.
As Lynn Lannister, yeah, if it's a girl. And Cersei's like, yeah, sure. Then the next one, Lady Taena. And this is interesting because Cersei seems to be interested in what she has to say. She's like, finally, somebody has something good to say.
Yeah. Well, and probably her main priority right now, other than this other stuff, is like, she's like, I'm going to be happy the day that Tyrion. I don't know if she mentioned it earlier. But
She did. She's like, I hate wearing mourning. At least I won't have to. I look so bad in black because I'm so pale. I look like a corpse. At least when Tyrion dies, I'll be able to dress like it's a party. Pretty much, jewels and exactly. So she.
But Lady Merryweather has sent messages across the sea, and it's going to spread because she's got a lot of friends.
I think you're right. Cersei did mention earlier. We must have missed it that she also has sent word right all around.
There's
kingdoms.
A big bounty out on.
There's a lordship.
She's gonna make someone a lordship for Tyrion. Yeah,
no matter how lowborn they are.
So people are gonna be pretty motivated.
Exactly. Yeah. Everybody wants to be a lord.
Yeah. So Lady Taina.
Taina.
I don't
know.
I think it's Taina. I'm going Taina.
I'm good with whatever you guys want to.
All right, say it however you want as we go through.
Taina.
She's sending word out.
She's like, I got lots of friends, and Cersei's like, I bet you do. You look hot. Kind of what Cersei says.
Yeah, basically. You're a good looking gal. Got good hair.
And she's like, I kind of like what this lady's saying. She seems to be kind of grasping, like wanting to get on my good side. And her husband is like poor and proud. So like, I can maybe use these guys. Is kind of what it seems like she's thinking here. And she's like, oh, we'll talk again.
Yep.
And her name's Graceford, Taina Graceford?
Merryweather. Graceford is the pregnant one who wants to name
Okay.
child.
Yeah.
Yep. Taina
as pregnant as Graceford. I see that now. Yep. That's my fault. Merryweather. Okay.
All right. And then we get old Mace Tyrell. What up, dog?
Actually, that's interesting. You said old Mace because that's one of the first things she thinks is like, he's not actually that old.
He's not actually that old.
He's closer to me than Tywin.
But he's old.
Again, I think this is her, like, she thinks she's in, like, the Marjorie generation, but she's not. She's in the Mace generation, right?
For sure, because, I mean, the first thing that he says is, like, he was an extraordinary man and we'll never see anybody like him again. And she's like, you already do right here.
You're looking at someone better than him.
She didn't say it, but yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that was definitely her, like, I'm not these guys. I'm my own person. I'm, super important.
I don't think anybody likes Cersei. Like, nobody would want to be friends with Cersei, like, in the fandom. But most people really like her chapters just because she's so like everything she says is just crazy. Like maybe crazy is not the right word, but just like
I mean it's very
dramatic.
It's unhinged for sure. Yeah. All right. So Mace is basically like, all right, man, sorry, but like I am ready to help and serve the realm in any which way that it's needed, which means make me hand. I'm basically ready to be hand.
And she's like, if you want to be hand, at least she thinks this. If you want to be hand, at least have the stones to ask it.
Say it.
And she's like, I'm sure you're needed in the Reach. And he's like, well, Willis he's got a twisted leg, but he's actually pretty smart. And Garland will be going to Brightwater Keep soon. Again, we had heard about this before. That's one of the bigger keeps from one of the people who was from the Reach who ended up siding with Stannis. So they took his keep and they're giving it to Garland.
What's Arion's dude's name?
Arion's dude's name.
Yeah, the guy that was like he was like has gout or whatever.
Doran Martell.
Doran, okay.
You meant Ario.
Ario, sorry, yeah. Arion is the guy in the Iron Islands.
He's Aeron. Arion
okay.
is
Jesus.
Egg's older brother who drank wildfire.
Oh man, fuck me. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I was like, why are we jumping to Egg's brothers? So
no, I meant because I knew it wasn't Willis, but it was like, oh wait, what was that guy's name from the other chapters? Yep. Anyway,
I got it.
It'll confuse you if you don't keep straight.
Yeah, and that's kind of what some of this is. It's just like, wait, who are these people again? Yeah. And then we go back through them. So
I wonder, maybe I'm giving a little bit away, but I feel like George gives physical descriptions of characters when they're getting more important. Like there's character like Mace, for example. I don't think we've ever really had a physical description of Mace till this chapter. We get a lot of physical descriptions. And I was wondering if it was just a Cersei perspective thing or if it's just because,
I was gonna say some of that seemed like it was kind of Cersei where she's like describing
very superficial.
She describes the Maester's suit.
People.
She's describing the Septon. She describes like that's kind of just what she's constantly talking about is these outfits and looks that people have, and because she's constantly scrutinizing everybody, right?
Sure, but I think again, I don't want to be too spoiler, but like I think Mace and Qyburn are two good examples that maybe slight spoilers. They're going to be around more than they have been in the past, and we get descriptions of them for the first time in this chapter. Is that kind of a sign by George, or I think it could go either way? So I think it's kind of interesting. But
they die next chapter.
I would also say it's kind of just like a writing thing, right? Like these people now they're important, so I need to give them some solid information to the reader.
When I'm taking notes, I click on him and paste the appearance in the note, and I'm like, why are we giving an appearance for this guy when we haven't had an appearance for like there's main characters who we haven't had
6 chapters or whatever already.
Yeah. Because with every person that we meet, if we gave an appearance, the chapters would be appearances. That's
my point. So when he does, it's got to be telling.
All right, so Mace has already put some plans in motion, which I think is pretty ballsy of himself, right? He's bringing this guy, Garth. He's already appointed a master of coin.
So you think this was Mace on himself? You don't think he's honest that him and Tywin were working on this?
No, absolutely not.
Really? I kind of trust him on this one.
Why would Tywin?
I trusted him.
Okay.
I don't know if it's a good question, but
well, Tyrion was the master of coin, right? So that was a vacancy.
But why would you give that vacancy to another family wouldn't you want to keep the family?
Because they have to do something for these people, right? Like they're here. This is another role to assign somebody to.
That gave her queen.
Well, it's kind of what Kevin says at the end. Like he says, I agree. Mace is not smart enough, fit enough, good enough at ruling to be in this position, but put one of his bannermen there, then he can't say shit about it. So I think it was kind of this, like, hey, I'm going to make your cousin master coin. I'm not going to make you master coin.
Maybe. All right, I'll say that's fair.
I've never thought about it before, but it's. I think what you're bringing up, Jeff, is also a possibility.
I think it's a great opportunity for a Tyrell to, like, who's there to refute it now? Like, oh no, we had these conversations by ourselves.
Because I will say one of the things that I think is interesting is the Tyrells are one of the families that we see pretty much only from the outside. So I feel like it's easy to kind of take them at face value, but we know already that they were kind of scheming with Sansa, right? They were trying to get Sansa married to Willis. So
all you're doing right there, though, I think is solidifying Jeff's opinion that it could have been just them scheming on their own.
That's what I'm saying. I've never thought about this before, but I think it's a valid thing to think about because I take the Tyrells at face value a lot because we don't get a perspective from them, but maybe I'm kind of selling them short.
It's a good point.
Because I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but when Cersei and Tommen are leaving, Tommen's like, hey, when's the wedding? Because as soon as we have the wedding, I can go to Highgarden. And Cersei's like, whoa, fuck no, you can't.
You're not going there.
That's what they were trying to do with Sansa, is like get her to Highgarden.
But again,
she's ours.
why is Marge, like, for the little bit of time that they were able to talk, Marjorie's pumping in his ear like, I can't wait to get married to you. I can't wait to get married to you. Like, I do think they're scheming as well.
That's why I 100% agree with you. I've never thought about it before, but this 100% could be just something Mace is making up on the spot here. So
Mace doesn't seem smart enough to sell it like this, and that's my final opinion of it. I think you have a very good point, Jeff. I think it's very possible. That's my opinion, though, is that I think Mace doesn't seem skilled enough to do that. But you're right. I think it's a very valid. I don't think
he's the one pulling the strings either.
Yeah, and it could be the Thorns or the Queen of Thorns. Like she seems smart enough to be pulling strings.
Before she comes into the conversation, Cersei's like, "Well, sorry, tell Garth not to leave Hightower or Old Town because I already promoted Rosby. So tell that guy stay out where you are."
The other thing, just about character info, just so we get it, Garth, they call him Garth the Gross. They do mention a few times. I'm sure we'll talk about it. He seems to fart a lot and stink kind of bad. He has 2 bastard sons that Mace says were also. Tywin had also promised these guys a place, maybe in the Watch. He doesn't say they're bastards. Cersei thinks, wait, you think I'm gonna let Garth the Gross and his 2 bastards around here? No fucking way. So just getting his info out there. Yep, that's Garth.
Yep,
Tyrell.
Garth.
He was also the seneschal for both Mace and Mace's father. So like advisor, Castellan type character for Highgarden, I think.
Okay.
And exactly. So go ahead, Jeff.
Mace is not happy at this news, and it becomes a scene, right, in public.
Well, the news. Sorry, did you say it?
That she had already promoted Rosby, which we find out she didn't. But she's thinking quickly on her feet, and Olenna pops up, and I don't know. She just kind of quiets the conversation, and she changes the subject to a smell. The first thing I have about Olenna is how bad it smelled inside, and she's not afraid to bring it up.
This is now 2 families she's kind of pissed off here, right? Like she's pissed off the
Stoke Wars.
Felice, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That doesn't carry as much weight.
Yeah, that family's probably like 50 knights total. Like Kevin Lannister himself.
Okay, she's still pissing people off.
It's not true. It's not false.
They all add up. She's now pissing off Mace here.
But I agree. The Tyrells are like an equal kind of to the Lannisters, so you kind of need to tread way more lightly.
So then, like Jeff said, the lady's like, yeah. Anyway, Garth does stink. How about that smelled like shit in the sept earlier, huh? That was the best part of this for sure.
Well, hang on. Another thing that I thought she said was weird was when she first comes up, so Mace is freaking out. He's like, "What do you mean? Like we had these plans, we had these plans." And Olenna's like, "Clearly Tywin didn't share his plans with Cersei. I can't imagine why." And it seems kind of sarcastic.
Undercutting Cersei for sure, like because she didn't fucking matter.
That's right? That's kind of how I took it. It's not more planning. It's like, how are you in charge now? you weren't even clued in on the fucking plans that Mace was clued in on, and Mace is a fucking idiot. So if Tywin's keeping the plans he's telling Mace from you, like, how are you the one in charge right now? She's like, I wonder why Tywin kept it from this idiot.
Yeah.
It's kind of how I read that. Yeah. So, but again, I think it could go either way.
Yeah.
And then, she's like, I'm a little susceptible to foul smells. There was something in the set too, a scent. And so she's like, a scent? Really? She's playing dumb, and Elena's like, more like a stink.
Your father smelled bad.
And she's like, maybe you missed your roses. You should go back to Highgarden.
Yep.
After the wedding.
Yeah. All right. So fuck off, Elena. I can't wait to kill you one day. Is her last thoughts before she's now ready to leave. She's like, Tommen, get on your horse, ride back. I got business to do. Rosby, get your ass in here.
I'm surprised she didn't bang Rosby.
It's nice out now. So again, I feel like there's some symbolism throughout the chapter. The Tywin stink, the Tommen with his crown. What you mentioned a little bit earlier. Here, he's like, Mom, can I please take off the crown? It hurts my neck. And she's like, no, keep it on. So again, it's like, does he care about it? Is she just wants him? It doesn't. That's what they're talking about.
It also doesn't fit him, right? It's too big.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they were talking about earlier. So
Didn't fit Joffrey. Yeah.
Well, no. Tommen's wearing Joffrey's crown.
I know, it didn't fit Joffrey,
Okay,
is what I'm saying. Like, so it must be like way too big for Tommen, right? That's what I'm trying to say.
Gotcha. Well, earlier she said Joffrey's crown doesn't fit Tommen as well. We might need to make a smaller one until he's older. And then right after that, she's like, why does Tommen always listen to what I say? Joffrey would argue more. So I almost thought it was kind of what Jeff was saying earlier, where like she thinks that the Joffrey's attributes are more kingly. Is kind of how I took that symbolism. But again, I think there's a lot of symbolism with like Rob's crown, right? Like when Kat's looking at Rob wearing his crown, she's like, she always has like thoughts of like, oh, he's still a boy. Has he ever kissed a girl? Now he has to wear this crown and do all these duties. And here Cersei's like, put it on, don't take that thing off. You know what I mean? So I think it's like a kind of a compare and contrast onto how Cersei and Catelyn look at their children thrust into this position of power. Catelyn's more like, I hope he's okay. I hope he's dealing with this well. He should be able to be a boy. Cersei's like, straighten the fuck up. You're here to make me look good. Type. It's kind of how, again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure. They're props.
I'm not giving her any credit, but that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah. All right. So she meets with Rosby, basically like, hey, Rosby, you're now the master of coin. Thank you.
As of yesterday.
Yes. And by the way, you were promoted yesterday.
That cough is a super undersell. First off, she says he's coughing into a red silk to hide the blood.
Yeah.
So much that he's like can't talk for like seconds and stuff. Yeah, it's
gets
pretty
kind
bad.
Of annoying to read all this coughing, but like,
yeah, I don't. I skip. If you read all them, you're an idiot.
He coughs so much, she's literally like, "Fuck, he's gonna die soon." I guess when that happens, I'll call Littlefinger back, and I don't know if we've heard about this, right? Last time we saw what was going on there was she was falling.
A fall out of a
Oh, she died.
Or Cersei doesn't seem to think that Littlefinger's gonna last very long without her, because like, why?
I was just making a joke.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, we got confirmation she's dead.
She was floating on a cloud.
Yeah. The rope. She caught a rope halfway down.
She
Sansa base jumped and caught her, and then parachuted.
Do you have any real thoughts on this, Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think she is giving him enough credit for sure, right? Like, he seems like he definitely has schemes that are working, right? Like
developed schemes.
Yeah, everything that he's done so far has seemed successful from what he's let us know. How's that? I think maybe I'm giving him more credit than he should get, but
sure. I was trying to think of an example for this, and maybe you guys can tell me why this example is wrong, but I think this is kind of close. I'm trying to think of an example of when there was a lady who was in charge of the house and somebody married in to kind of take in charge, and then the lady died, and then the reaction of the other lords. The only one I can think of is what Ramsay Bolton did with Lady Hornwood.
I was going to say the Boltons.
He kind of captured her, which was way more by force.
Raped her in a tower for quite some time.
Exactly, and then she died, and he's like, hey, now I'm the Hornwood. That's definitely different, kind of, but not really, right, from what Littlefinger is doing. And the North did not take kindly to that. So... And that was definitely way more aggressive, but the same end result is like, who the fuck are you to say you're an Aaron now? It seems like what Cersei's thinking. So just
yeah, and I mean, I think that's fair too, because like, I don't know that we know too many of the knights over there at this point, though, right? Really. Like, we only knew the ones that are dead as of now, so I don't know their feelings on even the Aarons.
That's very fair.
At the same time, like, it does seem like their loyalty would be to the Aarons. Why would they give a shit about Littlefinger? And then this the lady ends up dead. They're gonna try and rise up, right? Like
Yep.
one of them has to be Mace Tyrell, right? Like as well, where they're like, hey man, I was actually kind of in line for this, and they're gonna start pulling that kind of stuff. I guess what I'm saying.
Yep.
All right. And she's like, all right, so I have to name my Uncle Kevin Hand. She has this.
Yeah, Giles asked her, and she's like, yeah, it's Kevin.
And so the next meeting she has is with Qyburn.
Yep, so they get back to the castle. She sends Tommen off with his friends or whatever, and yeah, she goes up to, and she's like, as soon as she gets a moment of peace, Qyburn's there, and she's like, a ruler never gets to rest, or something like that.
She is.
I'm just too important.
She is
to
too
sleep.
much. She is too much.
It's kind of great to read.
Qyburn comes in. It's just funny to like laugh at. Like, he has info on. He was doing his own investigation, right, of the black cells,
Tyrion's escape.
Tyrion's escape, and the night Varys was gone. There's a third Varys, Tyrion, and a third.
Well, this is interesting. Varys is gone. So let me check the timeline. I did write it down. How many? I'm trying to figure out how long this has been since the last Cersei chapter. The timeline says
It couldn't be that much.
5 days.
Yeah, I mean, like by the time that he's like laid to rest or whatever, it can't be that long after they find him dead. 5 days even seems long.
I agree. And I could see 5 days being a little bit long, but
3 days.
Something like that is what I was thinking. But anyway, yeah.
Either way, the night when Cersei was there, she's like, "Where's Varys? Varys should be here."
Yeah.
Well,
And now he's missing. Yeah.
days have gone by and he's still not here. So yeah, I think one of the interesting things Qyburn says here, and it's kind of in passing, is the night your brother and Varys went missing. When like the last Cersei chapter, only Tyrion was missing. Varys just like isn't around. Now Varys is like a missing person. And she's like, yeah, there was a third man. And she's like, yeah, it was like one of the Golers. What about him?
Jailer.
Gaylor.
Game of Thrones word.
Jailer. It is a Game of Thrones word.
There was a big
G-A-O-L-E-R.
Game of Thrones word in this chapter. I mean,
Seneschal. I mentioned it.
I don't know if that. I guess
It was the second time we'd seen it, I think, actually. Because when I looked it up, I think we talked about it recently in an area.
It's like a southern thing, right? Like southern, northern Castellan.
I think
Seneschal.
the Dornish person who was in charge of Sunspear while Doran was at the Water Gardens was referred to as the Seneschal.
I know, but I guess that's what I'm saying. It seemed like a southern word for something we already knew in the north.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
Kind of
like Castellan almost, or Stewart.
Yeah, that was what I was
All
saying.
right.
Yep.
So Rujin was in charge of the black cells, and no one really saw him too often, the other jailers, and nobody wanted to really fuck around with his things because he had this shit pot that just smelled badly.
Yep.
I don't even know if it was that, right? It was like he was just kind of stayed by himself, and then when they searched his stuff, they're like, this room kind of looks like nobody was in here. And that nobody actually slept here.
Well, there was a lot of poop in the poop
There's
pot.
like mold. It's like moldy and shit, right?
Yeah,
Mildewy.
yeah. But there was a lot of poop in the poop pot to hide something, though, right? Like that was kind of the point of that.
Which Qyburn wasn't afraid of.
Yeah.
The other weird thing about Rugen is that Qyburn says he was appointed during the reign of Aerys II.
So he's been on the books for a long time.
Well, you think if you're taking over, one of the things that you would definitely replace is the people in
the
charge
political
of the
prisoner
prisons.
guy.
Yeah.
Why, if they're loyal cats?
What if you have some type of Targaryen prisoner, and this guy just happens to be more loyal to the Targaryens still?
Yeah, but there's no Targaryens left.
And this is the most serious cells, right? Like this is like your most prisoners go here.
Maybe he just really cares about his job, and he's like, "Fuck it, no, I'm the jailer, man." Like,
Sure,
people get put in my cell.
I just love keep people locked up. I don't give a shit who it is. Fuck them all.
maybe, but maybe not. Because it's like the Darys. We know the Darys were big Targaryen supporters when that rebellion took out.
Look, the dude got hired. That doesn't mean he has any loyalty to them. Like, you're not just laying down your life for the first person that ever gives you a job because they gave you a job.
It doesn't mean for sure that he does. My point is, it means that he might. Some people might find loyalty from that, which is the percentage.
I think it's a super far stretch.
Okay.
Most people probably don't give a crap who their first boss was.
You're probably right. So yeah, everything he says at first, like, yeah, I knew all this, but he's like, but under the poop pot where nobody else looked, there was a loose stone, and under that loose stone, there was nothing except dirt. But in the dirt, there was a coin.
But you could keep stuff on the dirt, like on top of the dirt. You could have definitely kept stuff there. So he's kind of like saying,
and he probably took all that stuff with him, but something got left behind. Exactly.
Yeah, and it's this coin. And it's a coin with a hand on one side and a head on another, right?
So I think all the coins have a head on one side, but they normally have a dragon on the other. And she flips it over, and this has a hand. And he's like, "This is no dragon." And she's like, "No, this is from before the conquest. The king on the coin is Garth the 12th. Like, holy shit, we think there's a lot of Aegons. If we had a Game of Thrones book from before the conquest, we're on Garth the 12th. Holy shit, it's a lot of Garths. But that's who this king was. How does Qyburn know the king? I think that's an interesting question. How does he know this isn't Garth the 11th or 13th? But basically, this is like, holy shit, Gardener's Highgarden. This guy was in deals with Mace, pretty much.
Yeah.
Right? First thought.
She knows it right away. Yeah, she's like, oh my God, how could I have not seen this coming? But it's like,
I'm a fool.
Like, lady, this coin seems like it was probably here for quite some time, right? Like,
The coin dates back hundreds of years,
To
right?
be fair,
Now,
the castle was not here before the Targaryens. The Targaryens built the castle. So this coin can't be here from pre-conquest, but it can be here from like 100 years ago.
Yeah,
but
but-
it can't be more than 300
and it
years
was
old.
buried in the dirt. He even fully admits that to her. He's like, I saw something shine and I dug it out. Like,
Let me ask you too, Nels. Like, all right, I guess it's still gold at the end of the day, but like, wouldn't it be like super strange if you just handed in this old coin? Like, this has to be like a collectible at this point. Like, this isn't something you're like going down in the market and being like, ooh, like
I don't know if they
maybe
care
don't-
like
maybe
that.
they don't care that much, but like,
yeah.
it would definitely like raise eyes. Like, how the fuck did you get this old ass coin? Like, there can't be too many of them in circulation, right?
That's fair.
I think Jeff's right. It would be an eye raiser. Especially, again, I don't know how much they care about it, but like, I assume they do. She says this is smaller.
Do you know how easy it would probably be for them to melt down this gold coin and just make like
and make it into a dragon. Yeah, that's probably
chunk
what's
of gold.
happened, right? Well, that's probably what happened.
Well, no, I
is
mean
that
even
they-
just like this dude, if he was like, I have this coin now, and you just make it into gold, a blob of gold, that's
Yeah.
still
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
still less questionable than a fucking crazy coin.
But it's smaller. She does say it's smaller in diameter
it's
and
thin.
thinner. So it's, if you do translate it to gold, it's less than a dragon. Not that really matters, but like,
Okay, it's still more gold than zero.
I'm
is
thinking
what
if you
I'm
took it
saying.
to a bank, my point is, if you took it to a bank or something, even if you melted it down, they would have the technology to be like, okay, let's weigh this thing. This is less than a dragon. How did you get gold in the amount less than a dragon? It also
You
seems
think
to
people
be.
don't just have gold jewelry and shit? What are you talking about? You think the only gold
I
that
guess.
exists in this realm makes
You're
coins?
fair. You're fair.
Nelson's comes up with these.
I love it. No,
ideas.
that's a part of the fun. I'm sorry, Nelson.
Well,
I don't
yeah.
mean to.
If you couldn't make fun of Nelson, I wouldn't be.
We're
here.
on to the mountain talk.
Yeah, I love it.
Hey, let's
I
talk
love
about
it,
the
I love
mountain now.
If you weren't, before we move on, if you weren't like brave enough to ask some of these questions, we wouldn't have some of the
We wouldn't have
conversations
much
we
to talk
do
about,
have,
for
right?
sure.
So sometimes you miss,
We learn
and
from
sometimes
it.
it's funny.
Shoot or
learn
shoot.
from it.
So it's all right.
Shoot or shoot.
Everybody's been that guy in high school class when the teacher's saying something, you're like, what the fuck are they talking about? But you don't want to ask the question. I'll ask the
Yeah,
question
yeah.
and sound like a dumbass, and then we all
I
learn
was-
from it.
yeah,
I'll be that guy.
We love it. That's why people are tuning in. That's
all
all.
right, now we're talking about the mountain. Jeff?
All
Yeah,
right,
man.
Gregor is struggling hard. Cersei knows this because the screams have been keeping her up at night and scaring the shit out of Tommen. But it probably scare a lot of people too. He's in excruciating pain all the time.
The fucking pills don't help.
Some kind of, and he's just been a milk of the poppy abuser because he's got awful headaches. I think we knew that before.
I don't think we did. I think me and you definitely talked about it in spoilers.
No, I think we knew
before.
something. Yeah, I think we did actually know something. I think we.
I thought we
think
knew that he had headaches or something like that.
Yeah,
Well, that was Merritt Frey in the epilogue.
yeah.
He was an alcoholic because
I still think we knew about the mountain, something about the mountain.
I think.
Maybe
I
not.
don't know. Maybe I am construing or confusing the two, but
I think we learned. I think this is a big eye opener.
Okay.
And again, I almost don't like this because I feel like it's almost George softening Gregor. It's like, oh, the reason he's a maniac is because he's always just chugging morphine, right? And like
Yeah.
it fucks him up, but it fucks him up not in like a pass you out.
He
way
doesn't
'cause he's
care
so big,
anymore.
he just doesn't
Yeah.
give a fuck. I feel like it kind of lightens him, but again, like in the real world, I think giganticism like really fucks you up. Like gives you like it can cause crazy headaches and shit like that. So I
Yeah,
think it's
maybe.
also potentially realistic.
I don't
Yeah.
know, Nelson. You tell us.
Well,
I've looked into it. I think what I said is accurate.
I meant, do you have crazy headaches and
I'm not Gregor size, but
yeah. Well, all right, back to him. What's going on?
bigger than me?
He was stabbed, obviously, by Oberyn, and we know that it was laced with a poison. This poison has been altered in some way, whether he is a great master of poisons or they even throw out like a dark magic.
yeah. So
to-
I think this is kind of interesting, right? So he says it's manticore venom. He's like, I'm sure it's manticore venom. I'd bet my life on it. Cersei's like, Pycelle guaranteed us it couldn't be that because that kills the instants that reach the heart. He's like, that's true, but this has been slowed somehow. And Cersei's like, what do you mean? Like or thickened somehow. And Cersei's like, what do you mean? Like with flour or cornstarch or like she's sticking it up her soup? And he's like, maybe, like, but that normally impacts the potency, and this looks fucking potent. So it's more likely that it was a
dark magic
spell, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Sorcery, yeah. Spell.
Yep.
Wild take. I mean, just whatever happened to this poison is a pretty wild take.
Yeah.
I mean, Qyburn seems like he's not afraid to have the Nelson wild takes, right?
Nelson and Qyburn could share a tankard together for sure.
It'd be great. Oh man, I'd love pouring one back with Qyburn. Interesting thing in here, there's a part where Cersei's like, hey, you better not speak of this. Maybe when they hear of the coin or something like that. And then there's a one line out of nowhere. She's like, Cersei had her wine filled by Sinel. So Cersei's like telling Qyburn, don't talk about this. And later she says like, oh, I didn't talk to Kevin until until the food was cleared and all the servants were gone. It seems like she's having like some
conversations aren't as priority or classified.
Well, and this one again isn't on the coin. This is more on the mountain's health. So maybe it's not a secret because everybody hears him fucking screaming.
Yeah.
But like, when did she come in? When did she go? Cersei doesn't really mention it. I just thought it was interesting. There might have been a servant here the whole time.
Well, Qyburn wants to experiment on.
Cersei's like, yeah, just it's time to be done with it. Send Dylan Payne to
cut his head off.
Do whatever the fuck you want. Just keep him downstairs.
Well, she wants to kill him, and he convinces her no, and he's like, well, we could learn something from this.
Yeah, and then she's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, he's like, we could learn something from this poison. And so here's a weird quote by Qyburn. He's like, we can learn something about this poison. Send a knight to slay a knight, an archer to kill an archer, the small folk often say. To combat the black arts, ... He did not finish the thought, but only smiled at her.
You sound a black artist, right?
I think that's what he's implying. Like, hey, I'm your guy for this one.
Why were you kicked out of the Citadel?
and that's her next question. Is like, what the fuck happened there? You want to read that quote, Kyle? Why he was kicked out?
Well, before we get to that, my thought on the poison, I mean, it's just like it could just be like, dude's big, right? Like maybe it takes more to kill him. Like he just needed a bigger dose.
Maybe it never got to his heart.
I mean, it could have like that. That I don't think is right, Jeff. Like I got to the heart thing. Like that. Maybe that's how some stuff works. Maybe it's my misunderstanding. But I mean, you would think once it's in your bloodstream, it would probably pump through pretty quick.
Well, she says all his veins and shit turn black. Doesn't that mean it's going through the heart?
Yeah, probably.
If it circulated fully through.
So that was kind of my thought on this. I guess is what I'm getting at. But anyway, where's the quote you said?
So she asked why he took his chain.
The archmaesters are all craven at heart. The gray sheep, Marwyn calls them. I was as skilled a healer as Ebros, but aspired to surpass him. For hundreds of years, the men of the Citadel have opened the bodies of the dead to study the nature of life. I wish to understand the nature of death, so I opened the bodies of the living. For that crime, the gray sheep shamed me and forced me into exile. To understand the nature of life and death better than any man in Old Town.
Yep. So I have it in it. So this is cool because we heard of these people, Marwyn and Ebros, very recently. Ebros is the top healer guy. He was the guy who's giving a talk on urine that all the guys were excited about. And Marwyn was the one with the glass candle who seems to be kind of far out there in ideas wise. The other thing along these lines that is a cool quote that Qyburn has said in the past is Jaime asked him something about ghosts or like, do we leave something behind? And Qyburn tells this story that when he was at the Citadel one time, he came into this room and there was nobody in the room, but he knew that there was just somebody sitting in this chair. Like you could tell by the imprint that was still left in like the cushion and like a scent that was in the air that someone had just been here. And he's like, if we leave our presence behind when we leave a room, something of us must linger in this world when we leave. So that was I think our first hint of like Qyburn is like, okay, what the fuck is up? Like, which I think is a fine thought. Like that makes sense. But in hindsight, it's like, what the fuck is this guy? How did you lose your chain? Like Jaime should have asked about that.
He's believing some weird shit.
And I think Jaime asked it after he had a crazy dream. I think Jaime asked him that after Jaime has like the weird dream where he's under Castle Rock. So he's like and then right before he goes back to save Brienne. So I think he's kind of like what is there something supernatural in this world is his question to Qyburn because he just had this really weird dream about like him and Brienne fighting people under Castle Rock and then he's like,
that's right.
Should I go save her? Does this matter? It's kind of how I read that question to Qyburn is like, is this dream mean something?
Qyburn's the one to ask that to, right? Because he's probably gonna say yeah.
And that's kind of what he said. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, when he says this, she gets kind of intrigued and she's like, okay, fine. Yeah, you can have the mountain. Do what you want.
Do whatever you want. Get it in the black cell so I can't hear him screaming.
Yeah, exactly. Just do it the fuck away from me. Whatever it is you're doing, I don't care. Like,
but when you're done, I need his head because the Martells want that shit.
Yep, exactly.
All right, so
And he's like, I'll need money. I don't have what Pycelle has. And she's like, Giles will find you money. Get new robes too. You look like shit.
You look like a bum.
This is where she says it. She's like, don't let anything I just told you pass these walls. But like, she was getting wine from servants earlier, so.
I mean, but it was of your labors, right? Like, I mean, I don't know. I know what you're saying.
Yeah. So again, like maybe
But-
the reason she's saying labors is because the servant is in the room now and he wasn't when they were, you know what I mean? Like
True.
maybe she's being vague,
Yeah.
so it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So back to herself. She's thinking about this coin now. What is she thinking about? Like, are the High Gardens after me? Like, how big are they playing the schemes?
How much are they involved in the death? Now she can't even think of remember Tywin's face without that stupid smile and without remembering the smell. And she's like, could Tyrion have been behind that somehow too? Like and then she's like, you know what? The High Septon is Tyrion's creature, and he was alone with the body. So like, what? After Tyrion killed the High Septon, he runs or after Tyrion kills
Well,
Tywin.
he's like, could he have made Pycelle kill him?
Pycelle? What do you mean? Does she
She said
here?
she wondered whether Tyrion was behind that as well. Small and cruel like him. Could Tyrion have made Pycelle his cat's paw? He sent the old man to the Black Paws, and so like, I mean, he's saying Pycelle could have killed somebody.
She
right?
definitely,
Like,
Pycelle was definitely up there on her suspicion list, seemingly for no reason. Like he's sleeping through the funeral, and she's like, if he's asleep, I'm gonna kill him.
yeah, and like Tyrion tried to kill him, right, or get rid of him at least.
She was also kind of on board with like keeping him. Like, Tyrion couldn't wait to get rid of him because he was in Cersei's pocket.
Exactly, or at least he thought he was. Like, was he ever?
But now Cersei's like, who the fuck's Pycelle working for?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
crazy people. All right, bam. Uncle Kevin arrives. They have a quick dinner, and then they talk of the hand. And
yep,
she tries to present it like, you're my first choice. He's very blunt, like, fuck you. Like, not fuck you, but like, come on.
Everybody heard what you did. You asked Jamie already.
Yeah.
So, and again, I kind of made a big stink about this in the last episode, and we had a disagreement. Basically, her and Jamie are whispering, or like talking in private. She offers him the handship. He publicly says, I'm not going to do the handship or whatever. And she's like, you think I would make you hand? I was trying to argue that she was trying to pretend like she never even said that. I think one of you guys was arguing that like it wasn't really a secret. It was more just she wasn't trying
Probably
to look like she had dirt on her nose after she got rejected.
No. I don't think I argued that she didn't say that. I believe what I argued was, making you hand doesn't mean I'm giving you the power to make decisions.
Exactly.
Is the argument that I made.
You're right. You're 100% right. And my point was that I think that is true, but she's in that moment, she's more upset that Jamie just made this private conversation public, and now Kevin and Qyburn and a few other people in the room know that she offered him this, because it does come back to bite her here. She's like, Jamie would be a horrible hand. I need someone older. He's like, you offered it to Jamie first, dumbass. Like, I heard you.
Well, I was making fast decisions. I'm sorry.
I
I
was
didn't
so
think that
grief
through.
sick. Which again, like if we go back and read it, she didn't give a fuck that Tywin was dead. She's like, it feels like a missing hole where a tooth once was. Like, it's weird, but it doesn't really hurt at all. So like, which again, I'm not shooting shade at, because I felt like that when people have died in my life. Not as close as a father, not as close as a father, but like people handle grief differently.
Well, this is the line. Don't ask me to rule, is what Jamie said. And she said, rule. I said, not of ruling. I shall rule until my son comes of age. So again, and it's not, she doesn't even, I don't think she even puts too much into the title of the hand. She's in charge.
It's a figure that needs to be filled so that nobody asks questions about if they can be the hand. So we need to put butts in seats so that nobody wants to put their own butt in the seat. But really, they're just there to be there, and I'm still going to do everything. Yeah. I agree that that's what she wants, but I also think that she didn't want this to be made public. But I don't think it really matters.
Whatever. She pivots really quick here. It's just like, all right, fuck it. Yeah, I did. Whatever, Uncle. Like, let's go. We got work to do.
So they do talk about Mace. She's like, I need somebody older. Jamie won't do. And he's like, Mace is older. And
you shouldn't have insulted him in front of everybody. That was stupid. You shouldn't be making enemies of the Tyrells.
Yeah. And she's like, yeah, but like they've overreached. And she's like, Tywin always counted on you. Can I count on you too? And she's like, everybody needs somebody they can trust. Your father had me, and he had his wife when she was still, like, your mother when she was still alive. He's like, you're asking a lot of me. I'm tired. I haven't seen. So this is interesting. Like, we've never really thought about it from Kevin's perspective. He hasn't seen his wife in 2 years.
I think it's very curious to think about a lot of people's perspectives, right, of being away from home. Like, and I don't know, Robin Aaron like brought his family down with him, right? But like there's a lot of this stuff where like people are off in service of people and just like away from their shit. Like it's a
100%.
strange deal. Like how is
You're getting closer to thinking about the little guys.
well
My job is starting to come through here.
Well, it's even worse for the little guy because like everybody in Kevin's retinue who's not Kevin, not only hasn't seen their wife in 2 years, but they haven't written to their wife in 2 years. Kevin has, right, for sure.
Yeah.
These guys haven't. So yeah, it gets obviously it's worse for the small folk. I don't think that's relevant here, though. I think the important point is
I was just
Kevin,
all I was saying was earlier, like I'm always bringing that up. So I was saying you're finally starting to get closer to seeing their perspective. That's all.
agree. But the point here is Kevin's gone through a lot, right? So he hasn't seen his wife in 2 years, and I agree with Jeff. There's a lot of people who've been through a lot. The other thing is his son died. Who's this?
It's not Lancel.
Cleos? Or one of the kids in the cell?
Yeah, one of the ones at the car side. I actually didn't have the name ready, but it was one of those guys. Yep. And then he's like, "Yeah, I have one son that's dead that I'm waiting to mourn. I've been too busy doing all this, like fighting a war and doing all this shit to actually mourn my own son." He doesn't mention Tywin, but his brother also died, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, he does mention at the end. He's like, "I'll skip to it." He's like, "Whatever. I'm taking my brother home." Basically, is like, I don't know, his last voyage with his brother.
Yeah.
I think so. I think it is in his mind that he wants to go home for that reason too.
For sure, but when he's talking about like how much he's gone through recently, like,
For sure.
yeah,
It's like I've basically I've done my part for this family. It's time for me to focus on my immediate family.
yeah.
And Lancel's about to start this whole deal with the dairies, and he's gonna need help there too. And his fields are fucked, and he has no idea what he's doing. And he's probably dying. He looks like he's my grandfather right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Kevin seems better than Tywin already, right?
I think that's
Agreed,
a fair
Kyle.
point.
I think at this point, Kevin could be up there just in this one little like section of being a person is probably on the hierarchy of just people.
Understanding of like, how
Lannister
this
shit.
game is played. Yeah, exactly.
He's like, fuck this. Like, I got better shit to do. I got to be with my family and my kids. Like, get out of here.
And he's just like
Shut
calling her out, like, Cersei, you're not that smart. Cersei, you're not that powerful. Like, watch me just show you how unpowerful you are, or not powerful.
It is crazy that Cersei thinks of the Tyrells as enemies, right? Like they're just that fact alone.
And not allies.
They're allies right now. Like as far as like every other army that's not on this side is concerned, they're 100% allies for sure.
This is kind of some of Tywin's teachings probably coming back to roost, or at least Cersei's interpretations of his teachings, and like trust nobody, and like you're always out for yourself, and you're always trying to kind of better yourself. So if nobody can trust you, right, you know your only motivation is yourself, then that must be everybody else's motivation as well, right? And that's kind of the projection I was talking about. And so then now that's what she's applying to the Tyrells already. Even though they're allies, she's still assuming that all they could ever want would be king, right? Like that they're obviously aspiring to take her position. That's obviously the only reason they're here. Obviously, it's quite clear, right?
And again, to give Cersei some credit, a lot of the fans who like really look into the Cersei stuff think that this isn't all like obviously Cersei's bad, but like a lot of this is because the way she was raised, right? Like Tywin probably taught Kevin and worked with Kevin and told him that like, yeah, we need like this is how we do things. But because Cersei was a woman, she was probably like didn't get the same teaching. Also, like she clearly overheard some stuff, right? Earlier in this chapter, she says like she overheard Tywin telling Jaime like love isn't important, right? Like you can't buy a horse with love. Like maybe there was like a second part or a bit first part to that speech.
You're giving Tywin way more credit.
I know I am, but again like Kevin, where did Kevin learn it from?
Titus, like you've already mentioned that. Why would Tywin
Titus
be
was
teaching
soft.
Kevin? Like they were brothers. They weren't.
Tywin was an older brother, and Kevin seems really respectful of Tywin.
How much older? How much older? Like what are you talking about? Like
they might have tried it. He might have taught him some stuff, and he definitely had him as
he might
like
have
a
looked up to him
confidant.
as well,
Nelson,
but like
and even Jaime, who did Jaime learn it from? Jaime is definitely not like we've seen Jaime. He's arrogant and he's a dick, but he's not as like just like kind of crazy thoughted as Cersei. Where did he learn it? He learned it from Tywin, right?
learned what though? What are you saying he learned?
Just how to be a person. That's what you learned from your parents.
Well, that's all nature versus nurture. But just because you've been nurtured the same way doesn't mean you become X. You're all.
That's
X.
what I was trying to say.
My point is, I don't think Cersei's been nurtured like that. She's been nurtured to just like be nice and go marry somebody and shut the fuck up.
Well, she wasn't nurtured. She was nurtured to be the Lannister woman, and
Exactly.
Jaime was nurtured to be the Lannister man. And it's
And
not
that's
like
why she doesn't know how to rule.
Jamie doesn't know how to rule either.
I would argue he'd be better than Cersei. Again, he's not in that
Why?
role, but
Why? What is he? What has he shown?
I don't think he's done anything.
You're
to
making
prove
that assumption.
his inner thoughts are not. I mean,
again,
they started off like Cersei, so I can't really make this argument because without Brienne and losing his hand, I don't honestly know if Jamie would be different.
There you go.
Which is, I guess, the point.
This is the last argument I'll say about it. Cersei has been on the outside looking in about someone being nurtured to rule, and she's seeing Jamie not take the teachings like she thought she would. So she's like, this is how it's done because this is how Dad taught it. Jamie's an idiot. It should have been me, right? And that's why
that's
she's
fair.
That's why she's following in line so much because she thinks that she could have done it better. And Jamie just didn't care. She was like, all right, fine, like fuck it, Dad, thanks.
Sure. I guess I just feel like because she's playing from like you said, she's kind of learning from the outside looking in. I feel like because of that, now she's playing with one hand tied behind her back because she was trying to like absorb that information, but she wasn't getting the lessons firsthand. So maybe again, we don't have to linger on this, but like maybe this is a bad example.
I bet
but
she
Tyrion,
got more than you think.
Tyrion plays this game very well. Where did he learn it?
What game though? What game does he
The
play
Game
well?
of Thrones.
You're just making assumptions. Does he play well? How well did he actually play?
That's fair. We can
Like
he didn't seem to be aspiring to sit on the throne either. So I think
he did some things. He definitely had a lot of miscues though. But he had a lot of miscues for sure.
He didn't really do that good his hand. Yeah, so that's fair.
Stop it. All
Moving
right,
on.
let's move through this conversation. All right, he has terms, right? She's like, all right, cool. I'll help you. I'll be your hand, but I got terms, which is bold. It's bold for sure, which I respect. He's like,
my man fucking drops a bomb I was not ready for that for sure.
This is the cool part. I'm gonna be Tommen's region, and you are going back to Castle Rock.
It's all or nothing. and he doesn't say it right away, but later the other option he gives her is, or put me in charge of Castle Rock, and then you take it charge, and we'll see what happens. But like he's basically saying, like, we're not doing this joint thing where I'm just like what you said, Jeff, your figurehead. Where I'm gonna sit in the chair and do nothing, and you're really gonna run this shit into a wall. He's like, either put me full in charge or send me to Castle Rock and get me the fuck out of here, and I'll fix everything else. But I'm not playing this joint being your puppet deal. Right?
Yeah.
Which
exactly.
I don't think he was for Tywin either. He obviously had a whole different role for Tywin. I think
I agree. I think she thinks that he was.
Yeah. Exactly.
But I think he was still his own person.
100%.
But he was a counsel.
Yep. So I mean, she not happy, and he comes in with like, Tywin was gonna marry you, and it just throws her off, man. She
and send you back to the Rock and find a new husband, and she's like, yeah, sure, but I didn't want to do that, and he's like, okay, well that's fine, but you're the lady of Castle Rock.
I'm not gonna make you marry, but you are, and this is again, she's not. Like he's in charge. Like he is the heir of Castle Rock right now.
You're assuming that.
My favorite part is that he even says that he's not Nelson.
Tommen is the heir. Why is Tommen not the heir?
Because he's king.
Okay.
So hang on. Let me ask you a question, Jeff. If Tommen wasn't there, who would be the heir? Just hypothetical.
I don't know if Myrcella.
If Myrcella wasn't there, who'd be? If Cersei didn't have any children, who'd be the heir?
Cersei.
Really? You think Cersei's over Kevin? Like, that's why Dorne is different. Is because women can inherit.
Sure.
I think that's fair, Nelson. I don't
maybe
know.
Uncle Kevin.
If Cersei's in charge next, then what? But
maybe Uncle Kevin.
Let me just say the main thing that I'm going to argue against you on is that this is literally Kevin saying you're the lady of Castle Rock now. So he is fully admitting that it's hers here. So no matter what,
I know, but that's what I have a problem with. Tell us in the comments.
Here's where I'm at, because like let's just go back to Winterfell. I don't even care if Benjen is at the wall or not. Like you give it to Sansa because you assume Sansa's going to have sons at one point, right? And it's going to pass through that line still. So even if Tommen is king, he's going to have one son who's going to be heir to the throne, and his next son, assuming, is going to be is now the Lord of Castle Rock, or the heir. So that's why you just don't punt it to an uncle really quick, because you have future lines.
It's actually a really good point.
She is Lady Regent of Castle Rock.
If anything, Tommen is somehow actually in charge of Castle Rock, and he can appoint. So the honest realization we have is what happened when Robert was king. Who should have taken Storm's End? Who was second in line Baratheon wise? This is an easy one.
It should have been Stannis.
And who was it?
He gave it to Renly.
Exactly. So, yeah, I guess that's the answer. Well, it's not quite the answer.
No, it
That's
isn't.
not that's a genderless answer. But like, yeah, if we're just going line of succession, then it like. So my point is, if when the king is occupied, it should like Stannis thinks it should just go next line of succession. So Stannis thinking it should go to Kevin. Robert thinking it doesn't just go to the next line of succession. It goes whoever the fuck I say it goes to because I'm the fucking king. So it should be up to Tommen. That's the real answer. Tommen should get to choose if it's Kevin or Cersei.
Well, again, I think I even if he is king, I don't know if it takes away. Like, there's no. Why would that take away? Why would he not be able to hold more? Right? And he'd be like, Tommen is the heir, and he's putting a placeholder. Tommen will put a placeholder till he has a son that is old enough to be Lord of Castle Rock.
Exactly. So if the king can't hold 2 castles, like Robert couldn't hold 2, and Robert as king got to appoint the second one, so Tommen can't hold 2, so Tommen as king gets to appoint the second one, but Tommen's too young to appoint. So it would go to the regent who gets to appoint, so Cersei, so she would appoint herself. So I guess that's my legal reasoning for what Kevin's thinking here, of why Cersei's the cat.
All right, whatever. We're spending too much time on something.
No, I think this is honestly important because it is kind of, to me, it's crazy that Kevin, he seems to, he is very blunt to her, but he kind of rolls over. I think he could make a way firmer stance and try and claim some shit here.
No, I don't think he can because of.
I also don't think he wants to.
Marcella. I also don't
He's
think
trying
he
to get the fuck
either.
out of here, man.
I don't think he cares about being Lord of Castle Rock. Like, he wants to go. He'd rather be like counselor to Lancel and be with his wife than be Lord of Castle Rock.
I 100% agree, but I think he could. Which again, we've already talked about it. We don't have to. Let's move on. So we know where we all stand.
You've already been on the fight that Marcella could be fighting for a lot more too, right? So
she could legally, she could be exactly, and I think both are true
depending on where your feet are. So
yeah.
All right. She freaks out. She's not marrying. She's staying with Tommen, and she's gonna rule. And I think this is another great thing Kevin does is he traps her with her own mindset. Is that
he fucking ruins her in like 30
it
seconds.
Was perfect.
Or 30 seconds.
It's just the perfect little like piece of, look, you're not fit to rule because you just admitted that naming Jamie Hand was stupid. But what does he say?
She says, I wasn't thinking. I was grief sick and I wasn't thinking. She's like, then leave the king with people who are.
Perfect. And it's like she should almost be like, God damn, I'm an idiot. I am an idiot. I just stamp it on your forehead.
The king is my son.
Cersei rose to her feet.
Aye,
her uncle said.
And from what I saw of Joffrey, you are as unfit a mother as you are a ruler.
She threw the contents of her wine cup full in his face. Sir Kevin rose with a ponderous dignity.
Your grace.
Wine trickled down his cheeks and dripped from his close-cropped beard.
With your leave, might I withdraw?
By what right do you presume to give me terms? You are no more than one of my father's household knights.
I hold no lands, that is true. But I have certain incomes, in chests of coin set aside. My own father forgot none of his children when he died, and Tywin knew how to reward good service. I feed 200 knights and can double that number if need be. There are free riders who will follow my banner, and I have the gold to hire sellswords. You would be wise not to take me lightly, your grace. And wiser still, not to make me your foe.
Are you threatening me?
I am counseling you. If you will not yield the regency to me, name me your castellan to Castle Rock, and make either Mathis Rowan or Randall Tarley the hand of the king.
All right, so he is giving pretty good counsel here too, right?
She just flung wine in his face, and he's still giving good counsel. He does threaten her, but he's giving good counsel.
I think he understands who she is, right? He has a great understanding of Cersei, so he knows. How is he gonna respond to the wine throwing?
He's like, I know Tywin, and you're a wannabe Tywin, right? Like that's pretty much what he's thinking right here. Right?
You're a dollar store Tywin.
Yeah, he's like, I literally, my job was to deal with Tywin, and he was good.
Yeah. So you think
now
this,
I got you.
Wine in my face, you're gonna, you know what I've been through with your dad? Like, fuck you. Yeah.
I don't even know if it's that. I think it's it's like I knew you would react this way. Like he was probably fully prepared for her to do something like this. So it's like he's like, all right.
And it probably hurt her so much more to just like not even give a shit,
Absolutely.
Right? Like she knew she wanted him to freak out and like I can't believe you would do something like this,
win.
and like
And honestly, it seems like he does like. Even after the wine in the face, and like you said, he might have expected it. He still just wants the best. He's like, hey, like I know you're pissed at me right now, but honestly, like if you're just gonna be pissed at me, name one of these two guys because that is honestly what would be good. And she's like, what is this lunatic thinking? Like, name a Tyrell Bannerman as the hand. Is he bought?
He's the one that took their gold.
He's paid. Like, again, she goes kind of crazy, but like, he's making sense. He's like, I agree, Mace is stupid. We shouldn't make him the banner.
Mathis is sensible, well liked. Randall is the best soldier. Like, he wouldn't be great later, but he could finish this war. Like, I mean, he really is, like you said, trying to give her counsel, but he's also kind of like fuck off, lady. Like, you know nothing. Very obviously, is more of what this counsel is, right? It's kind of like, you're too stupid to see these smart decisions right in front of you.
Yeah, and I feel like the way she tells him she's too stupid is he like kind of shows her behind the curtains of like what a him and Tywin conversation look like. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Tywin wouldn't have thought about giving the handship to one of these guys. But I feel like he's thinking the way Tywin would think. Is like, we don't want to give it to the Tyrell guy. I kind of agree with Cersei on that. That's giving them too much power. But if we give it to a bannerman who's actually well suited, then we're doing two birds with one stone. We're getting somebody who's good for the job. And Mace can't say shit. He'll probably actually thank us. When really we're hindering him because that guy's now more of our friend than he is Mace's friend.
Well, it's not even that. It's just like he doesn't have that soldier at home any longer, right? Like, that guy's here.
So I feel like it's almost a little bit of a behind the curtain of a real Tywin, like Kevin Tywin meeting that we've never seen from any of the children's point of view. Yeah, he's like, look at this obvious smart decisions right in front of you, and you're over here like having these weird conversations in public with Mace really loudly yelling at him. To be fair with Cersei, again, she is definitely overly paranoid, but like she did just get. Qyburn just came in here and was like, hey, there's a secret Tyrell gold coin in the cell of the guy who's also missing with the murder of your father. So, like, again, Cersei is crazy, but there's a lot of reason why Cersei should be super suspecting the Tyrells right now, right? So it's like, I don't know.
I call this flimsy.
That would drive you, if that was you, that would drive you crazy. You know what I mean?
It's like a tiny little coin in the bottom of this pit. Like, I mean, like, this guy probably kept something in there, but it's long gone, right? This coin was not part of his stash.
Is there also a chance that since we know that there was something under the rock that was of value to Rugen and he left this thing, like, why would you leave this piece of gold?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, Jeff, is this was an accident. That was just old gold in the bottom of the hole.
And again, I'm not
the
gonna
hole
say,
was
I'm
the
not
important
say
part.
More on this, but I feel like
that's I know. Well, these are kind of our predictions.
I'm gonna say something else, and I'm gonna give my prediction, and it's not really my prediction, but it's something I don't think we have enough future evidence on for me to say one way or the other. I don't think it's a spoiler. One thing I could think is, could Qyburn have planted this? Qyburn's like, oh, I found this coin in this fucking, like, what if there was no fucking secret thing under the poop pot? And
is it Qyburn? Is it another plant? Could it just be a plant in general? Is it something
why
really?
Why would Qyburn do that is interesting, but could it be Qyburn
why would anybody do it? You know, the same deal. Qyburn plant? Sure, that's interesting. Is it an actual plant in general? Is it just a coin that was left here for centuries that has no relevance to this thing?
That's my pick, Jeff. No relevance.
And so we'll see Kyle in the next one.
Well, the end of the chapter.
No, we missed the best part.
Oh.
He's like, hey, here's the deal, ultimatum. Either put me in charge here or put me in charge of Castle Rock. You'll take the other one. We're not doing this halvesy deal.
This is a good part.
And she's like, he's a traitor.
She's like, you're going to abandon your king when he needs you the most. You're going to abandon Tommen. He's like, Tom's got a mom. Like, you're good. You're still here.
You're here. And I think his father.
Yeah, and Jamie, yeah.
Damn, like that makes you wonder if Kevin was just curious the whole time by himself, or if
Well, I mean, the letters went out, right? Like, so.
Each of you give me one sentence. What's Cersei's next thought after Kevin says this?
Motherfucker.
That's not what I was thinking. Along the lines of like her being paranoid with everything.
Off with his head.
I would think, did Tyrion talk to Kevin? Because Tyrion seemed to. I feel like she knew Tyrion knew this, and she knew Tyrion knew this.
Yeah. He's one of Tyrion's men too.
Tyrion told Kevin what was going on exactly. Yeah, that's what she's thinking about Lancel, or like Lancel telling people, the High Septon knowing stuff. Like she's just so scared about what knows what.
That's a good point. Now.
So my thought would be like, who told her? Or who told him exactly?
Who told him, yeah. But I mean, the letter went out, right? Like the Stannis was sending these flyers all over the place. So yeah, it's not like it was like who told her. I mean, like only one person knew.
That was the whole kind of the secret of the first book. But like, now it's common knowledge.
Yeah.
All right, Kyle. Thoughts on Cersei in the future? Where do we go from here?
I mean, I don't I don't know what else to say about this, right? Like,
Did she name who did she name Hand?
It's a great question.
So Randall was Sam's dad too, right?
Correct.
Like we kind of skimmed over that, by the
Yep.
way. Like his dad is now kind of up for this very important position that he doesn't know about, and
He's one of the best battle commanders.
She's a war consigliere.
yeah, he is. He's very highly respected. We kind of get that side of things too, like the non-Sam side of it, but at the same point, it kind of validates a lot of what Sam was saying. Like this guy's probably a dick to him because he's not doing what he wants to do. Anyway, who does he name, or who does she name Hand? Huh? It's probably gonna be like a Kettle Black. No, they're in the guard.
One is in the King's Guard.
One is.
Osmond is.
All right. Well, there's another one. Then I'm gonna pick the other one.
There's two more. Osney and Osfrid.
Throw Osney in there.
The older one, the one that we've seen more. How's that? I don't know which one that
think
is,
it's
but
Osmond's the oldest. He's already in the King's Guard. The second is
Next
Osney.
one's Osney.
okay.
All
He's
right.
definitely appeared slightly more times.
I don't know why. I just like I feel like she's gonna pick somebody stupid that really has no place being there and make a poor decision. That's kind of where I'm coming from, and that's why I picked these dudes. So
Good thought process.
Only other question I have for you is: we know the next chapter is Jamie. Any predictions for that one?
I don't know. I think maybe he's gonna. Maybe we learn where Varys is.
This is confirmation that Jamie chapters are in this book, right? Because like we don't know which chapters from the last book are going to be in this one. This is the first Jamie chapter, so even though it doesn't seem like a big reveal, kind of is a big reveal.
Yeah, I think maybe we find out where Varys is. How's that?
Cool. Okay, I like it.
All right.
We'll see
All
Kyle in the next one for Jamie 1. See the rest of you guys in the spoil section. Bye, Kyle.
Bye, guys.
Later, nerds.
Like, subscribe.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
Bye, Kyle.
Bye, Kyle. Thanks for hanging out with us.
See you on the next one. Now, on to the spoil section for Cersei 2. Jeff, what we got?
All right. I don't know if this is my hottest take, but it's definitely the one that gave my eyebrows the biggest raise. And we were probably on this already, but Olenna poisoned his ass.
Olenna poisoned Joffrey.
And Tywin.
I was thinking Oberyn probably poisoned Tywin.
I
If
think
someone
Olenna
poisoned
did.
Tywin, I would think it would be Oberyn, but it might be Olenna.
Well, I just found it very okay. Maybe this is a hot take then. Olenna poisoned Tywin
Because she's making fun of the stink.
because of the way she came up and brought up the stink. It was very much like, ha ha ha. Did you smell your dad, by the way?
It worked.
And like,
kind of thing.
in like a way that it wouldn't have raised her eyes, like because Cersei doesn't think he was poisoned. He thinks he got shot by a quarrel in the stomach, and
yeah.
and I think it was just Olenna's way of saying, "This was me, motherfucker."
Yeah.
And you don't even know it, but it was me, right?
Yep. That makes sense. I can see that.
I got that vibe hardcore.
There was a time, I don't remember exactly what chapter it was. It must have been a Tyrion one, where Oberyn and Tyrion are talking, and Oberyn says something like, I'm here to kill not just the mountain, but the man who got the thing. And he's like, and your father might not live as long as he thinks he will. Which almost insinuates he's already poisoned him, and like the clock's ticking. And then when Tyrion finds him, he's on the shitter again.
Yeah,
like, I think
I don't think I disagree with you on that point as well. Which I don't know. Were Oberyn and her working together? I don't think so. But
yeah, I mean they both had motive, right?
were multiple people poisoning? Like,
Yeah.
was she? Yeah, who knows?
Well, I
It
mean,
was-
the motive for her to kill Tywin is definitely less than the motive for her to kill. For her to kill Joffrey makes sense. We want Marjorie to marry Tommen instead of Joffrey. What does her killing Tywin immediately get her? I mean,
Cersei at the
Cersei
realm.
does become in charge and then start fucking things up immediately
Yeah.
for sure. Because what actually happens is Cersei becomes in charge. Immediately everything goes to shit, which is what Varys wants, because Varys wants everything
a
going to
ladder
shit
of chaos.
so that he can bring in Phaegon
The White
and have him
Knight.
take over. But towards the end of this book, Cersei fucks up so bad she gets thrown in jail by this Faith. And what
Yeah.
happens then? Kevin takes over.
Yeah, and calms everything down.
So do you remember the epilogue of Dance of Dragons?
So give me the setting.
Kevin is the POV.
No clue.
He meets with Cersei. Very similar conversation to this one. But at the end, Varys shows up and he's like, hey, you're making everything way too calm over here. We need Cersei in charge again. Sorry, bro. Dead. kills Kevin. So that's the epilogue of Dance with Dragons.
Does he show up as Rugen?
I don't know if he shows up in that one as Rugen, but he is Rugen. That's definitely a spoiler we
Yeah.
should talk about in this one. But that's the next time we see Varys is in that
Wow.
Dance of Dragons chapter.
That's
okay. Which is, I think that Dance of Dragons, and I haven't read it recently, but on a second read of this one, or like on a closer read of this one, I feel like it's definitely parallel. Because I know he meets with Cersei, but instead of Cersei being like very abrasive like she is here, she's very like meek and almost, it seems like, from if I remember correctly, it seems like she is being beaten, but like as a reader, you can tell that she's pretending that she's beaten and she has some other plan.
She just needs to get out of there.
And I think that also makes sense for us because as we saw from her last chapter, I think it's the Walk of Atonement, but then we see Sir Robert Strong. I think it's the last Cersei chapter thing we really see in the book. So, and that kind of comes up later too. So yeah, what was your point? The initial point that got us talking about that?
What was her motive to kill Tywin? I don't know what it was. I don't
know.
Olenna.
You're talking about Olenna.
Olenna,
Gotcha.
yeah. But I don't know. It just seemed like it either seemed like she was part of it or she knew that his ass was poisoned.
I could see it. One of the things is I feel like this is something that we might not get much more information on. I mean, I guess if it's Olenna, we could because Olenna's still alive, Marjorie's still alive.
I mean, if we get kind of like a show ending where she's just waiting at Highgarden to die and she drops a crazy bomb, like, yeah, well, I killed your son, and
it was me and your dad,
and your dad. Like, I wouldn't mind if she added that little.
And your dad would have died if not for Tyrion because of me. That's what the stink was. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Well, I tried to poison your dad first, but Tyrion shot him first. Yeah. But at least I got your son, type of thing. I'd be cool. Yeah, that'd be
pretty good. Yeah. Cool. Lolly. Yeah, let's do this one. Lolly is not allowed to name her bastard Tywin.
Okay.
So instead, she names Tyrion.
I do remember that.
I think Broad has something to do with that, but yeah, Cersei is no happier with that name than she is with Tywin.
Yeah,
Cersei it's kind of funny great. Looking back.
Seeing Cersei's mind and her reactions they're comical. It's comedy.
Yeah, it's great. This is kind of the start of the whole rest of the Cersei. The rest of the Cersei, I feel like, plotline in this book really revolves around her trying to frame Marjorie, and then it kind of backfiring in her face. Some of that starts with her trying to get some of Marjorie's cousins on her side, which she kind of mentions
and
at one point.
Finding the weak link of it
exactly.
all.
She kind of mentions that in this one. So I thought that was kind of cool that they're dropping the seeds for kind of that's actually what balloons.
Speaking of that too, Lady Merryweather,
that
she
too,
thinks she's a friend, right? And that comes back to really bite her in the ass, right?
I don't think we know for sure yet Merryweather's true alliances, but I would agree with you that she is most likely actually probably a Marjorie person pretending to be a Cersei friend.
Yeah.
Telling Cersei that she's a Cersei friend, pretending to be a Marjorie friend.
Because some secrets come out that get her arrested, right?
I think the big reveal of this is there's a few times where Cersei's like, you should bring your son to court. Tom would love him. And she's like, yeah, I will. That'll happen at some point. And she just never does it because, like, she knows that, like, hey, at one point Cersei's going to be pissed at me and I don't want my son anywhere near this when that happens. So, yeah, that's a big one. This was cool. When they're talking about who should be Master of Coin, Lady Olenna gave Cersei a toothless smile. Your council chambers will smell sweeter with Lord Giles, though I dare say that coughing would drive me to distraction. This is a little glow throwback. Sweeter.
A little sweet.
Your council will smell sweeter with Giles, which means more
bad.
Schemy. More lies, right? Like, hey, there was some honest work, honest politicianing being done here.
Is Giles out there playing though?
Not really, but he's a Cersei. He's just a Cersei pawn. Like he's he's a highborn, but he's like a very small house, so he's knows that his power comes through Cersei. So we'll probably just do whatever she says. The other thing I was gonna say is Pycelle. I think from this point out, keep an eye out for it. He gives the best advice. I don't think he really gives any advice to Cersei in this chapter, but keep an eye out for it. I think every piece of advice that Pycelle gives to Cersei going on,
it's good counsel,
is pretty much the best counsel she gets.
I thought Kevin did after this.
Kevin's good for sure. Kevin doesn't. He fucks off though. He leaves.
Yeah.
So I think after this, Pycelle is pretty much the most sane counsel, and every time he talks, Cersei's like, "Shut the fuck up, you're stupid." But like knowing what we know as like readers who have read the whole thing, like, wow, Pycelle actually was right here, and she thinks he's like working for someone else when like Tyrion was right. He's just trying to be loyal to Cersei as much as he can. Just like, what are you doing?
He wants to be where the power resides.
Exactly.
And you got anything on Lancel becoming a faith militant?
Well, he what he has told the High Septon number 2 doesn't really matter because Cersei has Osney kill him. I think it's Osney. Kill High Septon 2. And then, guess who shows up? High Sparrow.
Yeah, which she appoints.
High Sparrow does learn about all the Cersei stuff. I think part of that is through Lancel. I'm not sure if it's confirmed because Lancel does fuck off to Derry, but when Jaime meets him, he's basically like, I'm going back to the city because there's a High Sparrow in charge, and knights are swearing to him because the warrior son's the thing. Lancel's like, I'm gonna go do that. So I don't think we know. Maybe I'm forgetting that. Maybe he does tell Cersei, hey, Lancel showed up and he told us that you fucked him and he killed the king. That might happen.
But he doesn't become like another.
I don't think
Sparrow.
we need Lancel though because Osney confesses everything anyway.
Yeah.
Osney was supposed to go confess that he fucked Marjorie.
Yeah.
Cersei basically says, hey, go confess that you killed Marjorie. And
not killed.
You fucked Marjorie. Then Cersei goes to visit Marjorie, and afterwards she meets with the High Sparrow, and he's like, hey, come see this. And he shows her Osney, who's hung up and whipped. And he's like, that's the queen I fucked. That's the queen I fucked. And he's like, yeah. And the High Sparrow's like, yeah, he told us he came and fucked the queen, but no man has ever come to us to confess such things so willingly. So we put him to a little bit stricter questioning, and then more truths seem to come out. And I feel like that's where they learned a lot of stuff about Cersei.
Yeah.
Would he have known about the strong wine stuff? I don't know, but who knows? Cersei might have fucking told him and he could have spilled it. So, yeah, I think that's where did that come from? It's kind of weird. But this one, I wanted to see if you had any symbolism for this one. The queen rescued her son from Marjorie and her cousins and made for the doors. Outside, the rain had finally stopped. The autumn air smelled sweet and fresh. Tommen took his crown off. Put that back on, Cersei commanded him. It makes my neck hurt, the boy said, but he did as he was bid. Is this the thing where like
heavy as
they're
the
coming
crown?
out into the autumn, they're coming out into the autumn air. It stopped raining. I almost think like this is them now, right? This is Cersei, like symbolically, this is Cersei and Tommen right now. Autumn is hitting. Tommen doesn't really want to fuck with this, and she's like, "You're the king. Put it on. You have to be this thing," even though he doesn't want to. It makes his neck hurt.
Yeah. All right. I mean, I'm not saying no to that.
I just think that Tommen's probably gonna end up dying.
It didn't scream out at me at that point. I think, I mean, obviously the crown being heavy is it's too big of a role for this cat right now, and Cersei forcing him into it is she's not really forcing him into it. She wants to take control, but yeah, I don't know. Tommen's not ready, obviously.
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah, and I don't have more thoughts on it than that. I just thought that quote stuck out to me. Didn't stick out to you. It's all good. Next point I had, gold coin.
Gold coin.
What do we have on the gold coin?
I truly don't remember, so I thought the conversation with Kyle was fine. I don't think it's a Qyburn plant. I think it's a Varys plant, obviously.
That's the thing Kyle does not know that we know, is that Varys is Rugen.
Varys is Rugen. I tried to be like, why, like, honestly, who fucking cares if this coin's down in the dirt? Like, if it was truly down in the dirt, like, it had to be kind of sticking out a little bit, right? Or
yeah, I think Varys planted this for someone with a very inquisitive mind to find, and he planted it in a place where it would seem like it wasn't planted under the poop pot. Like you wouldn't plant it there if you want it to be found, but in a situation like this, it's going to get looked thoroughly.
But it's also a weird, like, why this old ass coin, right? Like,
well, it also does nothing except for make Cersei paranoid. So it's like I don't know if Varys was like hoping that was really relying on this.
Let me just screw with her. Let me just really screw with her mind. And
yeah, exactly. I don't know if this was like step one of a 20-step plan. I think it was more just like, hey, why don't I put this here? If it works out, great. This will drive Cersei even more crazy. If not, if no one ever finds it, fuck it.
If not, it's a little gold coin that cost
me half a gold coin. Exactly, because it's smaller than a normal one. So where does he get it? I mean, getting one of these things, like, that might be more valuable than a dragon because it's rare. So,
well, that's what I was saying. If like this coin, like if you tried to just like go do something with this coin, like people would be like, wait, where did you, like, I haven't seen this and no one's seen this coin.
So I think you're remembering something there, but it's not this. It's in the next Dunk and Egg novel. Dunk gets I think the guy so Dunk enters in a tournament.
Is it like a black dragon coin or something?
Yeah, exactly. I think he jousts against the guy with the snail sigil.
Yeah.
And like everyone underestimates him, and that's his thing, is he goes around jousting really big and impressive people with, like, he's small and he has a snail, but he's really good. So he always has like people in the crowd betting on him because he always has horrible odds, and then he ends up just raking. But he always loses. He always makes sure he loses the tilt so he doesn't become famous because he wants to be a nobody so he can make money. So someone pays him money to kill Dunk, and he shows him the coin, I think, and he's like, look at this coin. He shows Dunk the coin when Dunk doesn't die, because he hits Dunk in the fucking head with his jousting thing, and Dunk lives because he's a huge lunk. And Dunk comes up to like ransom his armor, and he's like, here's what I was paid with. He's like, who is that? And Dunk's like, I don't know who this is. I don't know who this. He's like, it's a black dragon coin. He's like, if I tried to spend this, I'd be in trouble. I got to melt this shit down now. He says basically all the shit we talked about. This is what this guy tells Dunk.
So, I'm not remembering that at all.
And that's because they're at a Black Dragon tourney, right? Like everyone, that's like the second Blackfire Rebellion. So, so I think that's kind of cool. That I think this is definitely kind of a parallel to that. This is like a coin that you can't really, like exactly what you said. You can't really spend it, or it kind of tips everybody off, which is the whole point. Yeah. So the whole Rugen thing, it's kind of cool. We've seen Rugen twice before. Once Arya sees him when
walking with Illyrio. And
then he comes to Ned dressed up as Rugen when Ned's in the Black Cells.
I do think the Varys of it all, like having, like they really think Rugen's a real person, right? Because at some point Rugen probably walked the different like cell floors, like saying hi.
They've all seen him, yeah. But he's so mysterious, and he hangs out in his cell so much that everyone's kind of afraid of him, and he doesn't really have any friends. Is like kind of what Kyber. And that's just because Varys like goes in the cell and sneaks to a secret door, and he's actually not there. Exactly.
No, it's great, and it makes you curious of how many, because do they find other disguises?
Well, it makes me think that Kyle probably will never figure this out. That's what I was thinking. That's what I realized in this chapter, because I bet you fans had figured this out, because if you go and look at the description of Rugen and then the person that Ned sees in the Black Cells and the person that Arya sees, it all matches. But like the same way the Alchemist and Jaqen do. But like you would never notice that on a first read, right?
Sure.
So again, I think there are other hints. The fact that like Varys is kind of we've seen Varys multiple times in disguises just from Tyrion's perspective and stuff, so that you could maybe guess it. But I think it's not easy. And in this chapter I was realizing Kyle might never. And it's not that it comes up many more times. I think Jamie thinks of it one time, but this might be something Kyle doesn't get, and we tell him at the end,
which is crazy.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Yeah,
that's at one point. Would you tell him?
Maybe when we finish the books, but again, like if Winds is on the horizon, which we've been doing this for 5 years, and it's never been on the horizon, then if it is, then I probably wouldn't. But if it's not, then we'd probably do a few podcasts where we're talking about some spoiler stuff, and this is probably something we'd bring up. Yeah. All right. Gregor's head. She's like, hey, when you're done with Gregor, we got to cut his head off and send it.
Obviously sends a fake head.
Well, do they? A lot of people think there's a fake head on Gregor. Again, I don't know if you need that. Why not send the fake head and just leave Gregor with his normal head? But some people think there's a swap for some reason. Hey, let's send the real head, even though we're only sending the skull. I don't believe that. And then let's put...
I don't know. I'm just like Robert Strong being the mountain type of thing.
So I think the heads that are suggested there, I think there's 3 main ones.
Whose head would be nearly big enough to be on his body?
I think there's 3 main ones, and I don't know if they all make sense. The one would be Robert Baratheon's, just because he died recently, and they call him Robert Strong, is kind of why they named that. The other one is Robb Stark's, again, because his name's Robb, and we know his head was cut off, and they replaced his head with a direwolf head. But what happened to his head? Joffrey did say, I want that shit sent back here so I can serve it to Sansa. Yeah. If he got that letter sent to the Freys probably sent that shit to so maybe Robb's head's here too. The third one is throughout the rest of the Cersei chapters, we see a lot of random people showing up with dwarfs' heads, and they're always described as large heads. But again, my thought on that is they're large relative to the body. They're not like large relative to a normal size person's head. So would that make sense on Gregor? I don't know. But those are the 3 I think fan theories. Are Robert Baratheon, Robb Stark, or one of the dwarf heads?
Robb Stark and Robb Baratheon is a skeleton. It's a skeleton face. It's not. I mean, there's no face there.
Qyburn doesn't say we're doing surgery. He says He says it in this chapter. I'm doing black magic back there. He's like, hey, you call. Who do you call?
He's black magicking the skin back on.
He literally says, "Well, you got a ghost. Who you gonna call? Who you gonna call?" Qyburn.
Ghostbusters.
Exactly. You got a knight, you got to call a knight. When you got an archer, you call a archer. When you got some black sorcery, you call big dog.
I'm saying that they sent the biggest dwarf skull that was brought to them.
I think that's the logical. That's the accepted theory, I would say. Yeah. That's not the fun theory, but yeah. And last point I had was just Dance the Dragon epilogue. Again, I think there's some parallels. Just because it's kind of a big Cersei Kevin
and that's
meeting.
The end of Dance of Dragons or the beginning?
end, very last one. Beginning of
Yeah,
Dance of Dragons is
prologue,
Varamir of
prologue.
Six Skins.
Yeah, it's a weird chapter. Varamir's a weird chapter.
Exactly. So towards the end of Dance of Dragons, Fagon lands at Griffin's Roost. So Fagon is in Westeros, but things in the King's Landing are kind of going pretty smoothly because Cersei's got kind of fucked up by the Fate of the Seven. So gives the pot one big stir right before the end of the books. So
Yeah.
we have that
Cool.
to look forward to. Yeah, just mention that because it's kind of I think there's some parallels to this one. So cool. Let us know if you guys have any thoughts in the comments. Like, subscribe. We've been going way too long. We'll see you guys in the next one for Jamie 1, which is
Jamie
not
1.
a short chapter itself, but
Yeah.
not as long as this one.
Bye.
See you guys then. Bye bye.